Deathbringer here. Ready to toss your dice and your morals into the abyss? Then back the Roll for Combat Kickstarter, weaklings. It's packed with hundreds of savage, blood-soaked options to obliterate your enemy. And better yet, you'll get to use them in my game, the Deathbringer RPG. Coming next year, the Deathbringer RPG isn't some soft, cuddlecore fantasy nonsense. It's fast, mean, and completely unforgiving. In Deathbringer, you don't save the world. You stab it in the heart, loot the corpse, and set it on fire for good measure. Every backer of the Roll for Combat Secret Tomes for Shadow Dark Kickstarter will get an exclusive sneak peek at the glorious carnage of Deathbringer and a chance to play in the beta test later this year. So sharpen your blade, settle your soul, and back it now. Ignore me and I'll use your spine as a bookmark. Back now.
It's time for Roll for Combat!
That's right. It's time to roll for combat this week with Derek Melenda. He's back. Everybody missed him. Everyone give him a round of applause. Yay. Golf clap. Golf clap. Derek is too busy recuperating.
I'm a busy man.
Except being here.
I'm a busy man.
You're a busy man.
He's a guest. He's not required to be here every time.
Yes,
Steven.
he is. He is required to be here. He is an indentured slave.
Steve, I think you're picking up your computer mic.
Oh, computer mic. What do you mean? Oh, echo. Okay, all right. I will turn it off. Let's see. Maybe it is. Oh, I know why. I got the wrong mic on. How about now?
I'm sure it's better now.
I'm sure it is better now. Yeah, it's I don't know.
Listen, Steven just isn't a professional audio-visual YouTuber like me. That's all.
No, I'm not. I never claimed to be. However, I am a publisher. And look what I just got. Hey, everybody. Look at this. Dragons! Dragons!
Oh, dragons!
Roar! 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 New dragon books just came in.
Yeah, well, I guess that's just the first ones that you got, though,
yes,
right?
Those are the ones I have.
Those are just his publisher copies. Once we get the real copies, they'll come to you if you ordered them already. And fingers crossed, we're hoping to have them for PAX Unplugged, unless the port inspector gets feisty with us again, like they did with Leshy Dragons for Gen Con.
See, this. I've reached the point where I'm like, see, now whenever you produce a new book, I'm like, fuck, another SKU, great, another 4 books that we have to somehow fit into our table.
I actually figured that out. I figured out how to do that because I'm going to send you. You're going to do your data analysis job. I'm going to send you our sales from the last 3 cons, and you're going to tell me what books to bring and how many. I'm going to do that in a little while, Derek.
But the cons are very different from each other. I don't think we should conflate
That's
them.
Derek's job. Derek's the master. He's going to figure that all out.
But there's no way to figure out what PAX Unplugged is going to be just based on Gen Con or...
Of course there is. You can take into account, the relative population. You can make estimates and create factors to represent how, TTRPG skewed that convention is. You can absolutely do that.
You can guess, but it's not going to necessarily be accurate.
That's Derek's job.
Shockingly, most analysis is usually just good professional guesstimates. So
He's like, oh, you're going to guess. I'm like, what do you think we all do? We're just professional
Obviously,
guessers.
Things are estimates, but the question is whether
oh my
it's
God,
like a
Mark,
very educated estimate.
Stop being Mark.
No. You know what, Mark? You're right. We'll bring 10,000 cases of every book.
I know.
You can carry. Them
You're
all.
going to carry and set them all up, Mark. Every single one. I'm going to bring.
I think we should just keep it lower.
Yeah, but how do we know what to bring that's lower? Lower is a relative term when you have 50 SKUs.
I think we just have to make our best guess. Right?
That's what I've been doing. But now I'm going to make a better guess.
I mean, to be fair, you have sort of painted yourself into a corner here because, you have more SKUs than Free League.
Well, we're just cooler.
Wait, how did we wind up having more SKUs than Free League? They have so many properties.
We have a lot of SKUs.
Did they just not bring everything, or do we really have more products than them?
We have a lot
Mr.
of products.
Mr. Dragonbane is in chat. The goat of all goats when it comes to setting up and breaking down booths.
Oh my God.
Says Derek can do it. I have faith. Boxing the reigning books at PAX East was quite a bit of books. I think he means PAX West, but yes.
And that was the least amount of books we brought by far.
Correct.
And there were a lot remaining. Is it because it sold a lot less than even the low amounts that you thought?
No, because we don't bring. Because if you only bring 6 books, it's still like you still bring like several hundred books. That's the problem.
No, that's true. That's true.
Well, that's the problem. It's like okay, I'm going to only bring 4 books of each type. Well, it's still several hundred books of each type. So when it all gets added up, and it takes up a huge amount of space, and they all have to get packaged. So anyhow, I got something else. Look what I got. I keep buying stuff that I'm never going to play, but I wanted to get. Oh, welcome to Night Vale. Do you know this one, Derek?
No, I do not.
Do you know this one, Mark? Do you know anything about this?
No, actually.
Really?
You finally stumped both Derek and me. I've never seen one before that neither of us really knew.
One of the most popular podcasts on planet Earth. It's very interesting. It's hard to explain. It's basically it's like a public service podcast that they talk about this town called Night Vale, but the whole town is based on Cthulhu mythos. Like it's hard to describe, but it's just people talking. Isn't
that already like Innsmouth or something like that?
Yeah, but it basically is. It's like the town of Innsmouth, but it's Night Vale. And it's just done very well. It's been around for a very long time. There we go. A town where all the conspiracy theories are true. But this was just because it's kind of a nice little box, and I just wanted to see. And it's comes. Let's see what it comes with. It comes with like.
That's interesting.
Oh wait, here
I ran a fake game that was kind of similar to that, where all the conspiracy theories, various supernatural conspiracy theories, were all kind of going on in there.
Yeah, it's just a fun. Like here's the library. Like you never go to the library because that's the librarian. Things like that. But it takes place in our world. It's fun. It's just a fun little game. I just wanted to see how they did it. I'm always curious these box sets because I'm wondering how much money they're losing on them now because of the because of tariffs. So,
tariffs.
Yeah, they don't make anything. So yes, I got that. And I got my Nimble. What else did I get? I got a lot of books. Oh, I got sent this.
Yeah, I got my Nimble as well.
I got Weird Heroes of Public Access. I was sent this for free. This is like pretty funny. It's like one of those. It's like a game based on public access from the 80s and 70s. Like had like all these like fun little pictures. Looks like it was done in mimeograph paper, like the level up. Look, leveling up. It's done really cheaply. It's cool.
But yeah, so question. What are we talking about today? Because I actually have no clue.
Okay, so Derek, the name of the episode was The Truth About Why No One's Happy with D&D, which is a very provocative name for
It's clickbait.
Yes, for a topic that if you read the description, Steven has like some very good points that he wants to make here. But as for everyone watching this, to be clear, we know that a lot of people who are happy about any given property don't come online to talk about it. They're just having fun. And the reasons that it seems like if you go around, you only see people who are upset about D&D or any other popular thing is because people love it. And if they love it, then that's what makes them upset over various reasons. And Steven has the whole thing for this. So let's see what you're going to say.
I'm going to tell you incorrect. That is actually not. You're doing. It's going to be a lot deeper.
I'm actually going to agree with Mark here. Because one of the things that I did a lot of analysis for when I worked for a top 5 insurance company, possibly now number 1 or 2 in the world, was this metric called Net Promoter Score. And the idea of Net Promoter Score is that if somebody ranks you, let's say a 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10, you consider them a +1. And if someone rates you like a 7 or an 8, you consider that a 0. Yeah. And if you consider, and if anything 6 or lower is actually considered negative. And the reason is because if somebody has a bad experience, even a slightly bad experience, they will get online and they will tell everybody about it.
Mm-hmm.
It is very rare that somebody has such a good experience that they go out of their way to make sure that they spread the gospel of how amazing your game or how amazing your company is. That is exceedingly rare, right? So most of the time when people have even a good experience, they just go, yeah, I'm supposed to have a good experience. I'm not going to tell anybody about it. So there is a natural sort of trend for people to highlight their negative opinions far more than their positive opinions.
It just completely is how it works. And I get it because people are like, oh, it's just brown nosing to go and tell someone you loved it. But it's not. We really love to hear it. And it's important for our own psychological well-being. But that's just not what it feels like to an average person. There's no psychological impetus. Whereas if you have an issue or something's coming up or challenges your identity or a piece of yourself that you've devoted to the hobby, then you feel like you need to say something because you want a change to be made. There's something that you take issue with. There's something that's wrong. And that's what makes people speak up.
So I'm not talking about, it's good what you're talking about. That's not what I'm talking about. I couldn't care less about the public discourse and I couldn't care less about what people are saying. That's not what I want to talk about. I don't want to talk about why people go online and talk about why people say their things. I couldn't care less.
Okay, well, then what is the clickbait title about?
I'm trying to, but you keep interrupting me. And if you stop talking, I'll explain it to you. So what the clickbait title is about is that my son is taking an English class at school, and he was telling me about it. It was very interesting because I never heard of anything about this. He's a freshman in college, and the class is about how people get so invested in made-up worlds. Now, he's talking about the world of anything. Like they're actually exploring in his class, they're exploring every type of quote fandom there is. Yes, you have your Marvel and standard geekdom fandom, but it's going way deeper into that. It's talking about and exploring the concept of how fandoms were even made in the 1800s and the 1900s and the 2000s and going into fandoms from back then, which really got me thinking because I was like, that is fascinating. And what was the most fascinating is that everything that we complain about was complained about 200 years ago. Like nothing has changed. And his class is going into the whole aspect of people design and come up with these fantasy worlds and sort of build these huge narratives around them and just get totally sucked into them. And they then get upset when these narratives that they build within their heads are then disrupted by, quote, new things or new stories. And this is, back 200 years ago and mostly had to do with serials. Back then, what they would do is they would actually put stories in the newspaper, and there would be a serial where every week you would have a new story and it would continuously base off. Like Great Expectations was done this way. Great Expectations was a weekly book or, serial that you would read every week. And that one's perfect. That's a good example because when that ended, he wrote, quote, the bad ending, Charles Dickens, and everyone hated it. They hated it. And they hated it so much that he went back and he wrote two more endings where he wrote the middle ending and then he wrote the good ending. And then he said, choose the ending that you want, because they got so much hate mail for his original ending of Great Expectations. And that was over 100 years ago. So that is what I want to discuss, is that how come people are dissatisfied with, I use D&D, but it can be anything. It can be the restaurant you go to. It can be the game you're playing. It could be the book series, the television series, the music you're listening to, your sporting team. It doesn't matter. It comes down to this whole very interesting aspect of what the story you have is in your mind and how you have, if you are a fan of an external source, such as Marvel or D&D, then you are beholden to how they herald and, display that. And if you don't like it, then you get angry.
I think you just answered the question about why people like, in theory, or why they should, like TTRPGs. Because when you watch a television show or you watch a movie or you read a book and you say, oh, that's so frustrating. I would have done something very different, or I would have ended it very differently, or I can't believe they took it in this direction. And it's frustrating because you don't have that agency to affect the story. But that is the essential pure nature. Like, even when I was a kid, I used to read those choose your own adventure books, which have kind of made a comeback. Right. I hated them because I was like, why are these my only two fucking options? I don't want to do either of these. I want to do the third option that you didn't present me. These both sound stupid. And that is essentially, I believe, at the core of what a TTRPG experience is, and why I certainly rail against railroading. But because, you know, you look at a media situation, you go, oh, if I was Cyclops in that situation, or if I was Pip, is that the character's name?
Yeah, Pip, Great Expectations.
You know, then I would have done something different in that situation. You know, I would have punched Mrs. Haversham, I don't even remember the character's names, in the face. So yeah, like I think the TTRPGs has this fun. The fun aspect of it is you get to basically be in these fictional media spaces and legitimately choose your own adventure and choose your own path and take it in a direction that works cool and best for you. So when people get upset about media, I don't necessarily know that applies. Now, where that could become a problem in our modern day connection with TTRPGs is people feeling like the story, the type of story that you can tell, the experience that you are being generated is essentially moderated or controlled by, you know, big RPG, up at the top, and that you're like, oh, I really wanted, you know, this. I really wanted to do something different, but I can't help it. This is the adventure they came out with, and I don't have any choice, and we have to play it this way. It's like, well, no, I mean, that if that's your mindset, then I can see where that could be frustrating. But I think it shouldn't. I think it should be different.
Well, it's one reason why I think actually the edition wars are a little bit less fierce this time. Yes, sure, you had people who aren't adopting 2024 for 2014, and you have people who are poo-pooing it in both directions. But what made some of the edition wars fiercer, I can tell you, is not just that the game mechanics were changing, but that they made large canon shakeups in the fictional worlds, which was giving you a canonical outcome to these characters. For example, in 4th edition D&D, like, my group eventually moved backwards to 3.5 from 4e, and one of the elements that, at least for me, was more unnerving even than the game mechanic changes in 4e, which a lot of them were good, even though some of them didn't work well for us, was like in the Forgotten Realms setting, the spell plague that was just like all of the characters you like, unless you really like the two top big name characters that we're never going to kill, are just dead. Not necessarily even because the plague killed them, but we're also advancing the timeline, so they died of old age. The interesting characters. Some of your characters are like...
I stand by the spell plague was the worst reset ever.
People in chat are saying you're supposed to say you moved on to Pathfinder, Mark. Come on. I didn't, because Pathfinder didn't exist yet. I went back to 3.5 and then to Pathfinder from there. But yeah, the spell plague, it killed a bunch of characters. It took some characters who were like interesting characters and are just like, you know, the symbol was like this powerful sorceress who was like a queen who was one of the most powerful spellcasters in the world. And then after the spell plague, she was basically like a drug junkie who just needed her next hit. And it was just like, what has happened to this character? And so, like, I saw a lot of other people who were in that boat. And that ties directly to what Stephen was saying, where actually, honestly, even more than the mechanics, it was also some of the narrative that affected. Stephen, you're so right. It wasn't even just 200 years ago. Would you believe that it's been happening for thousands of years with these ways that the canon has shifted?
Yeah.
In fact, and this isn't thousands of years old. This is more like 800 years old. But like, and around there, Jason Tondro, who's, you know, was at Paizo and then at Wizards, his doctoral thesis was about the way that King Arthur mirrors comic books and modern fiction in a lot of the same ways that you were talking about there with tabletop RPGs, where there would just be people who would go in and they would just add in their own insert knight who was just like, well, we know Gawain is Arthur's nephew and he's like supposed to be the cool guy. But yeah, I'm from France. So here's this guy, Lancelot, who's also from France, and he's better than everybody else. And in fact, Arthur's wife likes him better than Arthur, and he's the coolest knight of all time. And then people just kept adding in these knights from their own countries. And then eventually Gawain, in a lot of depictions, became transformed into like this buffoon who was murdering his own friends by accident when they were wearing like costumes and things like that. So there were even like canon battles across countries where people would just make their knight. It's like, oh, well, yeah, Lancelot, but he was too impure. But, we have these other characters who are from Germany who were able to like actually find the Grail. So, and even before that, in mythology, people were adapting their different mythologies into their own, adjusting and fighting each other over the different endings. Not just Great Expectations, but if you look at like Euripides' plays, he often just made up different endings to situations. Like the typical myths would have like Orestes, who's like the guy who was the son of Agamemnon, who got revenge when his mom killed his dad. Like marries Hermione, who's the daughter of Helen and Menelaus. But in Euripides, he just has her like in a chair and they're burning down the building and they're just going to kill everyone in this terrorist attack. And then Euripides is like, I don't know where I'm going from here. Apollo, come Deus Ex Machina and save everybody. And then people would make fun of Euripides in other plays. Aristophanes in his comedies, right? This is thousands of years ago. Would just make fun of Euripides for being a hack and doing this. He had Hercules come to the underworld to bring back playwrights that he liked. And he's like, I can't find Aeschylus. I want to bring back Aeschylus from the dead. And Euripides is like, how about me? Bring back me from the dead. I'm a good playwright, right? He's like, oh, go away, Euripides. No one wants you.
So again, and people I see are making fun of me in the chat because they're saying, oh, Steve is talking about human psychology. Yes.
I don't think they were making fun of you. I think they were thinking you were saying something pretty profound.
Well, my point is that I find that it's very important to actually discuss these things and understand them, because then they don't upset me, or at least they don't upset one as much, because now you sort of know where the anger is coming from and you can temper it. Like, I don't get like, I know people are getting crazy when they're looking at all the orcs in 5e and they're all like the Mexican orcs and stuff. And I'm just like, who cares, man? It's your game. Like, we were actually, so just in my game this week, we were playing the starter set. We're actually done with the starter set. And we're about to start Joel the Indigo Isle. A little nervous. I got to tell you about our setup here. But anyhow, and they were like, I don't like it that kobolds are now something you like have to feel bad about, like bad about killing. And you know what? It's like, I liked it in the old days when orcs were token orcs, which were basically a force of evil and were not actually creatures that you're supposed to like emphasize with. They were just a force of evil and nature that you destroyed. And then we got into the long discussion about that. And at the end, I said to them, let me tell you guys, this is my game and this is how it works. Kill them all. And they're all like, yeah. They were all very happy because that's the game they want to play.
I have discussed this before, but the advantage, believe it or not, to alignment is that it made the foes that you fought essentially irredeemably, cosmically almost evil, and that killing them actually was considered both a boon and a mercy. And this made a lot of sense because the game was, situated on the point that you're going to be killing these things a lot. And so now that they've sort of made these creatures into more like realistic three-dimensional creatures, and people, basically, they're no longer monsters, they're people. But yet the adventures still frequently, you're killing a lot of goblins and orcs. And I'm like, okay, so we have just actually fully embraced that we are just murdering sentient people now. And we're somehow, that's better? Then, that's the part that I always think is really crazy, because I'm like, yeah, okay, you're like, oh, well, calling a group of people evil, it had shades of colonialism and racism, and I understand there's certain modern day precepts to this. Granted, we are talking about magical fantasy people races, but okay, fine. But you're still killing those people. So now, instead of it being like, oh, I am doing this righteous thing by killing these cosmically evil people, now you're like, no, I'm just straight up murdering people on the street. And so it's kind of one of those weird things. I'm like, I don't know if that made it better.
I feel like that the problem that you have in between that is that they were always kind of portrayed as being people who just happened to have this alignment that was one way, but they weren't always that way either. If you wanted to make a setting, and to be clear, orcs have, thanks to Warcraft, kind of gotten this seat in modern culture where they're sometimes conflated with a variety of real world cultures, and they may be beyond the point of it being possible to pull this back. But let's say gnolls, because I don't think gnolls have at this point become conflated too much.
Don't hurt my doggies.
Okay, well, we'll pick whichever one you want out of the various ones. Orcs, it probably wouldn't work for. Maybe goblins, right?
Goblins? You mean Paizo's mascot? Don't kill Kyle.
Whatever you want to pick, though, you have to recontextualize them so that they aren't just people, right?
I know.
Like, imagine that you had a campaign setting. And in this campaign setting, and I'll even use orcs as an example here. They're not green-skinned or pig-faced orcs in this setting, but you have humanoids and you have dragons and other creatures, and there's this black sludgy like blight. And when it corrupts someone, almost like Ganondorf, who corrupted the Dark World in Zelda, like their body just becomes like blackened and purpled, and they become this like evil,
like the Zerg.
Being almost like the Zerg, right?
Yes.
And imagine if in that setting, the name of what a human becomes and what they become is called an orc. And they've been infected like the Zerg or the blight by this thing. There's no known cure. You can't change them back from that at that point. And they just want to annihilate and destroy or assimilate with blight all other living beings.
So basically you made them into the Borg.
Sure. And so at that point, if that's what an orc is, and I just made up one example, you can come up with hundreds of other things. If that's what it is, other than the fact that orcs now have become associated with cultures with Warcraft, that particular word, I don't think almost anyone would say if that's a goblin or an orc or a gnoll. I don't think anyone would have a problem or an issue with that, because in that case, you've defined them as being cosmically evil. They're not just some guy who had the word evil painted on them, right?
Well,
anyways,
Wait.
so nobody's happy with D&D except for the legions and legions and legions of fans who are very happy with D&D.
Yeah, tons of people are happy with it. But I think when Steven, the clickbait was that Steven said nobody, but what he was really trying to say is there are a lot of people who aren't and who appear to be, and the reason is exactly what he said about fandoms. And building your own, it's really cognitive dissonance, right? When it comes down to it. You build your own version in your head canon, and when it gets violated by something, it feels bad.
Well, there's also this desire, and we talk about this a lot too, which is, there's always going to be this desire for people to be playing official D&D. And like, because you'll even see that in people's posts. Like somebody will describe something and someone will be like, oh, that sounds really cool, but you're not really playing D&D because you changed X, Y, and Z. And, or people feeling weird about playing, let's say, an out of date or out of print RPG because it's not alive. It's not living. Like there's always going to be this natural draw to the quote unquote current edition. Think about, I think about this a lot of times. I think one of the reasons that, for example, Pathfinder 1 did very well is because people were very happy playing 3rd edition, 30.5. 4th edition came out and they didn't like the change, the rules changed, the world changed, whatever, what have you. Now, Pathfinder 1 made some very strong, decisions and cleanups of some weird wonky crap in 3.5. But for the most part, it was a fairly faithful rendition, especially with that first core book. So why did so many people change from 3.5 to Pathfinder 1? I think it's because in their mind, 3rd edition was dead. And they wanted to be part of a new living ecosystem, and they wanted to be part of an active game, a thriving game, a living game. And so there's this idea that, you are beholden to the changes that the company makes, and people feel very priced into that. And so when the company goes in a new direction, they release a new edition and you're like, oh, I hate this. It's like, well, why does that change anything for you and the way that you play your game? It shouldn't.
Well, I don't know. It's not entirely an illusion, Derek. It's like I should memorize the name of this law because it was on a slide that Steven showed and I forget the name. It was just some guy's name with an apostrophe S law that shows that your game becomes exponentially more playable the more people that are playing it. And I think that that's tapped into is a lot of it is irrational, exactly like you said, Derek, but there is a kernel of rationality in it, which is once the living game moves on, it becomes harder and harder to find players for the version that you want to play. Whereas if there's an actively supported version, it's easier. I think that's a big part of like some of the very cloned OSR games. I'm not talking about the ones that actually really innovated and did something new with the old school principles, but the ones that are super clones of some of the older editions. They did like if all that mattered was that the rules were out there, they could have kept playing the editions that it was a clone of. But by having an actively supported game with a company that's behind it, it can help find players. It may be easier to do so than just trying to do so on the defunct game.
So what I wanted to talk about real quick is back to what we were saying, because I forgot, now I remembered, is that if anyone here is watching Peacemaker, the television show, man, James Gunn, I love James Gunn, because he is one of the only people out there, because Peacemaker is an anti-hero, and he's a good guy who kills everyone. I mean, and he does it in horrible, violent ways that they show. And I feel like when we were kids, and I'm watching shows from the 70s and 80s, and trust me, the 50s, way worse. Like things were pretty, they just came from World War II, where there was a lot of real world violence for that World War I. These people had very hard upbringing. So it wasn't like, oh, they were glorifying violence. No, that was life. Like life was violent. So when people are getting more distance from it, it's getting more desensitized. But we had very violent shows. Bad guys were bad guys. Good guys were good guys. And I'm not going to get into any politics here, but one of the things Hollywood did very recently, if you watch a lot of movies, the bad guys are always these, like the Avengers did this. They're just nebulous. There's these nebulous bad guys who just are creatures that they're destroying. They do that mostly for the international market. They don't do it for any other reason, because cultures are different throughout the world. So they try to make the bad guys just generic, and that's movies. So that's why they do that. But James Gunn is the only one who seems to just go away from this trend, because he's like, screw it. These are the bad guys. They're getting killed. We identify with them, and they show them. And he did that. Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Holy moly. Talk about a brutal movie. That movie was great, but one of the most brutal, depressing movies I've ever seen. It's so horrible, that movie, because he really does not shy away from violence and what happens to good guys. Bad things happen to good guys. Good things happen to bad guys. It's a fascinating movie. But my point is that depending on who you are and depending when you grew up, it's also a very large part of what you identify with. So I know I keep mentioning things from like the 70s and 80s, but
that's what you grew up on.
That's what I grew up with. It. But I was watching something very interesting, and this was the history of Steven Spielberg and George Lucas and how they created all their movies based on 50s, because that's what they grew up on. And for obviously Star Wars was based off the serials. It's well known. Like they based it. That's why they even have the crawl, because back in the 50s, you would go to the matinee, you would watch. My dad would go. This is what he would do on the weekends. My dad, who grew up in the 50s, he would go to the movie theater in the morning, and then they would stay there all day. They would stay there for 8 to 12 hours. And they would just watch one movie and one serial after another. And they did this all day Saturday and all day Sunday. That's what they used to do. And it was just these serials. And that's what they grew up with. And therefore, that's what the movies of the 70s were based on the movies of the 50s. But then you have the movies of the 80s and the 90s based off the 60s and the 50s. But it's fascinating because every generation is basing today's generation off the previous generation, if that makes sense. So the people that are making things now are basing it off their childhoods from approximately the 80s to the 2000s. And I'm starting to see a lot more Gen Z people now hitting their 30s and 40s. And now they're,
you mean Gen Y, millennials, right?
Millennials, right. They're
hitting their 40s.
Right. And they're actually starting to not just create content, but get into positions of power. So now they're deciding on what is being shown and what will dictate, the culture going forward.
The one difference about that, and we talked about this in a previous episode, actually, because Stephen, you saw something about it online, is that boomer culture, because of how many boomers there are and the fact that many boomers are still around and are just like a very powerful and influential generation, has kind of become an undead zombie that has instead of it just being a chain link, like you said, every 20 years,
just keeps going.
It passes on. The boomer thing has continued and has not gone away.
No.
While the other links are trying to continue on the chain, and it may be causing some ripple effects. And you can watch our previous episode. I can't remember the title of it, if you want to find out more about that discussion and argument that Stephen brought in. Also, I found the name of the law. I'm going to try to remember it. It's hard to remember because it's a very generic name. Reed's Law.
Reed's Law.
I knew it was based off Metcalfe's law, because Metcalfe is just such a weird name of a person that it's easy to remember. They're both economic laws about the value of a network and how effective it is scaling. And Reed's Law is that it can scale up to exponentially in the size of it.
I do find it interesting just because, so you and me, Mark, are creating content. And so like all week I've been working, or really all month, I've been working on this Living Legends book, which is pretty much ready, by the way. For those of you who backed it, the Pathfinder version, hopefully we can have the beta out tomorrow, hopefully. But all these things that we create, I'm basically recreating my childhood, which is kind of weird. So I am recreating my childhood, which was the 80s, in books that are published in the year 2025. But I'm basically just recreating the things I enjoyed when I was a kid and now publishing them for people.
A lot of them are also things that I enjoyed or that our authors enjoyed. So I think that they span the gamut. I think that's actually part of what makes some of our options broadly appealing to a wider range of people across multiple generations. Because I've seen that we have fans that are as young as being children now to being like significantly older than you, Stephen. I think what does that is that you bring in that that 70s and 80s vibe, and the authors and I'm a millennial. A lot of the people who write for us are millennials or Gen Z or Gen X, like you, Stephen. So we have a broader range of sources, and so we can capture the interests that are across a broader range. So it's not just bringing back the 80s.
I think it's good that
but it does more than that, and it makes it really accessible.
No, I think it's actually good you and I are different generations, because you and I, between the two of us, we cover a huge amount of ground. And actually, I think this is something you bring up, Derek, because I know how many times do we go to a show and we'll have a long discussion with someone, and then Derek turns to me and goes, "That guy's been playing D&D for 3 years." Or this person's been playing D&D for 2 years. And
you know what? Sometimes people who've been playing D&D for only 2 or 3 years have brilliant insights for D&D. Like, there's no reason to dismiss opinions based on the amount that they play. But
that's
sometimes it is wild when you're like, this person is so into it.
Exactly.
They're so smart. They know everything about it, and they've only been playing it for how long?
Well, it goes both ways, though.
Yeah.
I think Derek.
Well, but I also think about I mean, there's a couple different ways to think of it, but because one is obviously if you're new to D&D, let's say you started playing D&D as I did, right, in the late 80s, early 90s. My access to D&D information was, my cousins who taught me how to play, eventually Dragon Magazine, and sometimes, people up at the local comic book store or the game store. Now, if you get into D&D, you're watching this show, you're watching Bob World Builder, you're watching Professor DM Dungeon Master, you know what I mean? Like, you have so much more fire hose to drink from. So, your ability to learn and to be exposed to tons of different ideas is at a much, much, much higher level. That being said, there's always that sort of knee-jerk reaction, like when, the CEO of your company is a 21-year-old, and you're like, I've been at this company 20 years. And you're like, what could this person possibly know about, the business? Sure, they might be coming in with a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of new ideas, and maybe they're able to connect better to the younger customer base. But there's always a sort of a knee-jerk reaction like, how long have you been in? I've been in this business longer than you've been alive, and you're now my boss's 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 boss. It's kind of like sometimes there could be some of that knee jerk reaction, and I will freely admit to it. You know, I see people who are these mega TTRPG influencers. Cool, they've been playing the game for a couple years. Awesome. That's probably why they can connect with people so much. But I oftentimes wonder, like, are people sort of taking a step back and saying, how are their views understood in a context? You know, like they're coming to the game and it's like everything's bright and shiny and new to them, and it's like, well, these are classic problems that we've been discussing for 40 years. This is not a new thing, but yeah, I mean,
they might have a new take or way to look at it, whereas we may have been stuck in the 40 years of discourse 100%. And solutions in the past. Sometimes you get the Alexander the Great comes and cuts the Gordian knot.
Yeah, 100%. You know, 100%. And now I'm not gonna lie, it's very rare that I will watch what I'll call a neophyte RPGers channel and be like, wow, I never thought of that before. Wow, that's a great point. But it does happen occasionally. And
yeah, that's like when I watch your channel,
right. And you're like, oh, well, hey, I never thought about it that way. There's also something to be said about content and whether you're appealing to the masses or you're appealing, like how can I make my content to appeal to the widest group of people at the lowest common denominator? I mean, again, always props to Professor Dungeon Master. He just posted a video, he said my last crafting video ever, in which he basically said, I started this channel to make cool, how to craft stuff and make cool stuff and including cool minis and terrain. But none of you fucking watch that, and YouTube is punishing me to all hell. And so this is going to be the last time I make one of these videos, because that's not what you guys want to see, and that's not what you guys want to watch, which is fine, because Professor Dungeon Master is trying to be, smart, and he has a business mind unlike me. See, Derek would double down, and he would say, okay, that's it. My entire channel now is only, you guys don't watch these videos? That's it. The entire channel is now only this. We're going to do 6-hour paint-alongs. How about that?
I love watching paint-alongs, by the way. I do. I watch those mini paint-alongs. I really do.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, good news. I bought $600 worth of
I know. I'm still waiting for you to start doing them, Betty. Where's your paint-alongs? Of course, these guys are pros, and they like here's my totally unfinished model. And then 1 hour later, they're like, here's my Golden Demon Award model. I'm like, come on.
No, since Derek's 6-hour paint-along is going to be to paint the same amount that they did in that 1 hour paint-along.
Yeah,
well, he'll do 6 hours,
quality,
and it's going to be he's going to be doing Q-tips, so he's going to be Q-tip quality of his paint-along. So here, by the way, we have 210 people watching and 36 likes. Come on, people, do you not have thumbs?
Well, no.
Okay, Steven, I want to tell you.
They joined because of the title. They're not thumbs upping because we're not talking about it.
No, Steven.
We are talking about it. We're talking about why no one's happy with D&D.
No, listen.
No one's happy with anything.
They clicked on this because they wanted to see a shit on D&D, obviously.
Oh, I am shitting on D&D. I'm shitting on everything.
No, but you're not. No, but you're making it too generic.
You're explaining why in a way that makes it clear that it's not D&D's fault.
Right.
Everything sucks. D&D sucks. Pathfinder sucks. The Eggerheart sucks. It all sucks, and yet it's great.
Right. See, no,
it's actually all great, but
it's all great.
So,
and
Steven, I want to tell you the truth about why no one's happy with thumbs upping this video, and I'll tell you why it is. It's actually very interesting. People have built up in their heads about media, just like you were saying, what they're expecting to see, what they want.
Exactly.
And so when they clicked on the video, they were expecting to see.
It was meta. I was psyching
it was meta.
Everyone.
You were inceptioning it.
I was inceptioning you. You thought you were coming here, and now you're upset because we're not talking about why you're upset. So now you're upset. Yay! I did it. I did it.
That's a deep cut. That's a deep cut.
This is the first time Steven has ever inceptioned the topic and proven it.
I proved the topic. Why you're upset? Because we're not talking about it, and that's why you're upset. Now you're upset with me.
Well, now, okay, so I'll come out. I'll say it, Nate. So here, you want to hear my hot take, Nate? Nate said each of you guys needs top 10 reasons that D&D, the new D&D, is a failure. Okay, here, I'll tell you why. Because, okay, I am a believer. I am a proponent. I am an apologist for new editions. I like new editions of games, and I don't just mean we cleaned up a few things. I mean new fucking edition. Okay, I'm talking 3rd to 4th. I'm talking 4th to 5th. I mean big radical changes. Now, if you're going to do an update, maybe call it a remaster, I think that's fine on, say, the 3 to 5 year time frame. That's what Pathfinder 2 did. You know, Pathfinder 2 remastered is a cleanup, some structural rechanges. And again, the game came out in 2019 and the remastered came out in 2025. Okay. But if you go 10 years, I think once you hit the 7 year mark is honestly perfect for me. At the 7 year mark, I think you come out with 6th edition, let alone the 10 year mark. You come out with a brand new edition. You give somebody new. But now, of course, you know, there's a million bajillion business stupid reasons and all this bullshit and market sensibility and all this other stuff that I don't fucking care about. But I'll say that I don't care because I want a new edition. And that's the problem. It's not a new edition. And a lot of people are like, they didn't clean up and fix the things that I want them to fix. No, you wouldn't be happy with my solution either. I want them to make something entirely new.
Yeah.
You know, scorched earth.
That's the secret. So there, that directly lies into one of my 2 reasons I'll put in. The secret is, and it's also tied to what Steven even said, everybody wants something different. And so no matter what they did, there were going to be a lot of people who were unhappy. Because if they did Derek's thing, tons of people would be unhappy. And look, I actually like... That sounds about right for my tons of people being unhappy. That sounds about right for me. I like most of the changes they made in 2024. I actually think it was an improvement overall. If I like to actually pick and choose what I want to use between the two, but if I had to pick just one, I think 2024 is what I would do because it has enough advantages or improvements. That being said, there is an opportunity cost in having to learn the changes, and it may not be enough better for people to want to do that. But the fact of the matter is, you're never going to make everyone happy. But I think another big reason, if people are asking for like what is going on with the new edition, which is the question that you were answering in chat, is simply that they expected this idea of infinite growth, when really what they had was an edition that did far beyond their expectations with the skeleton crew for a variety of reasons. Catching lightning in a bottle, getting Stranger Things, getting Critical Role, COVID bubble for tabletop RPGs. And they expected everything to keep being the same or better, and attempted to make an edition change to stimulate sales, because new editions always kind of do the best of their set, while also not changing it very much because they weren't willing to take a risk at losing the lightning that they caught in the bottle. And by doing all of those things, then they were kind of setting themselves up with a bar that was going to be very difficult to clear unless they caught lightning in a bottle again.
I also think, though, there's something to be said, and maybe this is actually correct, which is that the level to which people are attached to D&D as a market is much lower than it used to be. And what I mean by that is, and maybe like 3rd edition just scared them so much after what happened with 3rd edition. But like, I think that, yes, there's a lot of people that play D&D now, far more than anything else. But I think a lot of people are so loosely attached to D&D that if a new edition, a true new 6th edition came out, we're changing the game up. A lot of people would see that as an ejection point.
Yes.
And they would say, I'm just not going to play the game anymore. Now, back in the day, people got on their, the forums and just edition war raged because they were so connected to the game that they were like, no, but
it was also an ejection point. You're right. It was an exit point for, in the same way as those old Star Trek toys where people were trying to collect all of them, and then they made one that was almost impossible to get, and a ton of collectors just stopped entirely when they didn't get it.
So, but again, I'm never, I don't know. I'm weird. Well, I just view the games as being, distinct.
Well, like, I think the big
D&D
issue...
3rd edition is different than D&D 4th edition, which is different than, AD&D.
Well, they are different games. That's the thing.
I know,
it's like they are completely different games. And I think the other issue is that we have access to all these games forever. Okay. Like there's nothing stopping you from playing 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 3.5 AD&D editions because they're still around forever. Now let's take a look at something that is a fascinating thing that's happening in the World of Warcraft. So World of Warcraft was and I know this because I talked to people there. So World of Warcraft, when they started it, people loved classic WoW. And then as they updated WoW, and they really made some big changes over time. They completely changed the map. They completely changed the world map. Obviously, they changed the classes constantly. They're changing everything. You literally can't go back because they are the owners of the servers and they're the masters. So there's no, let me play the old WoW. You couldn't. And for years, people at Blizzard, I know, would say, well, we're never going to bring back the old WoW. Okay, they used to say that constantly. Okay, so people built illegal servers and would bring back. I mean, the technology to do this is kind of mind-boggling. But they brought back their old servers so that you could play classic WoW. And these were very minor, but proliferating to the point that there was a kind of a real low point for Blizzard. And they were like, all right. And then they made classic WoW, because it was also for various reasons that had to do with timing and people, bringing people back to the game that might have been gone. And so they don't want to catch up and they have to relearn the game and stuff. There's a lot of reasons. And it was a gigantic hit where now there's two versions of WoW. There's retail, which is the current live version, and then there's classic. And now there's even rumblings that they're going to bring back another classic WoW. There's going to be 3 versions of WoW, which is fascinating to see that this game could actively support 3 versions of the same game from 3 different time periods, because WoW is now 20 years old. So you have WoW from all these different time periods, and people are actively playing it because they want to play, quote, their version of the game, which, just bear with me for a second, the number of people who ask me, are our books out for first edition Pathfinder? It's a lot, by the way. And I always say no. And I'm not going to do first edition Pathfinder. There's a lot of reasons why, but I'm just not going to. But not even on a digital point of view. I wouldn't want to do first edition Pathfinder. But let's say D&D. Would it break the internet? Which I think it might. If they said, we're going to come out with a module. And not only are we going to come out with a module that works in 5th edition, but we're going to come out with the 3rd edition version of the module, the 3.5, the 4th. We're going to come out with this module for past editions for people who want it.
AD&D.
Yeah, exactly.
Even OD&D, 1974.
Right. And it doesn't have to be a big module. It doesn't have to be crazy. It could just be a fun one, like a smaller one. But you know what? Just by doing that little bit of fan service and just that little bit, I think it would actually do really well. And the amount of goodwill it would give WoTC would be massive, even if it didn't really give them that much money and it was just kind of a promotional thing. Because then those people who play that version, they get something out that's, quote, official by the company. I'd be curious to see, because video game companies are starting to do that. You're seeing remasters. This is the new big topic. Like Persona 3 is coming out with a remaster. Oh, Derek and I are waiting very much for a remaster of Final Fantasy Tactics very much. It's coming out at the end of this year. End of this month, that we're very excited for. So remasters and re-editions are all the rage right now. So why not remaster Pathfinder or D&D? Huh?
Wait, they were remastered.
No. Remaster first edition. Come out with new versions, new games for them. New official
so what you're
modules,
saying is
official
not a
content.
remaster, but like the other thing that you proposed, which is having an adventure that spans across.
Yes.
Wouldn't that have been an amazing 50th anniversary thing if they had done it?
Yes.
Last year, and just be like, this is our new adventure, and we'll call it like the end of time, or like the convergence point. And it actually exists for all of the editions of D&D. In fact, it's not the same adventure for all of the adventures in D&D of the editions. It's a little bit different. You actually have to play through the different parts in each edition of D&D to see the different parts of the story. Because the first thing that happens is a prologue that actually was 20 years in the past that is run in OD&D or something like that. And then eventually, like, what those adventures did comes out later on, and you find the story and you play in each of the editions of D&D throughout the time until eventually you would have had the D&D 2024 be the grand finale, where you finally deal with this evil that's been growing for like decades in the fantasy world. Imagine that. That would have been.
And don't get me wrong, I don't think this will really make that much money. I think this
necessarily.
No, but that's not the point. The point
is a publicity stunt, and it's something to make people feel good because their favorite edition, the one that's the closest to their identity, got a call out. And people were, because in my version that there were different pieces of the adventure, people were even encouraged to play the edition that person loves the most that hadn't looked at it before.
And you do it once in a while, just for fun, just for funsies.
But they're not in the business of doing things for funsies.
And I think
you know
that answers the question of why no one's happy with D&D, because you just answered it. They're not in the business of making fun anymore. They're in the business of business. And that is the problem.
I mean, every business is also in the business of making money too. Even when I tell people on this channel, I'm like, the thing that's remarkable about Steven is he just really wants the product to be the best possible. He keeps adding things beyond even what we've promised just to make it a better product. You almost apologetically to the greed angle. You're like, wait, no, don't make me out entirely like I'm trying to make fun things. I'm making a profit. I'm trying to make a profit too. Almost like you don't want to be known for that side of it. As a business person, you want to be also savvy at what you're doing, and you are.
Right.
But
if you want to see someone who does things just for fun,
that's Derek.
That's Derek.
Yeah, that's Derek. And also Derek is historically a failure. So, it's it's not a great long-term solution,
Well, it's not a long-term solution, but this is like they put out fun things all the time. And I don't know. Anyhow, that was just my little thing. It is fascinating because in the video game world, and I always watch the video game world, is that there's a lot of nostalgia going on right now.
Well, video games also have so much infinite money that they can just afford to burn some on the pile.
By the way, yes, that's the difference. Well, that's what I'm saying. The only one who can really do this is WoTC. Like, people are saying, Steve, you can do it. I actually can't, because I don't have enough time or money to come out with things for other editions. I wish I could. I just don't.
Although some of those editions are gated off and don't have a license. Like, you probably could do something if you had infinite time and money where you used a retro clone for the retro ones and it wasn't directly in those editions. And then you used an OGL product for 3.0, 3.5 and an OGL for / Creative Commons for 5e in 2024. But due to the GSL in 4e is just kind of just like closed off in a very specific way. It would never be able to be part of that expanded universe.
No, I know. But,
WoTC could do it, of course.
Right,
like
WoTC can do it. WoTC can do a lot of things.
Nobody else could do that if they wanted 4e to be involved.
No, right. But it would be just the press alone. And that's the difference, is that there's a lot of Fortune 500s who put out stuff all the time, literally just for the press. Video game companies do this. Well, pretty much everyone does it. Like, car companies do this. Like, anyone with money, they do this all the time. I mean, back in the day, the technology companies do it. They don't do it as much as they used to, but oh my God, boy, did they used to, the things they would give me, oh my God, for going to their conferences, they'd give you thousands and thousands of dollars. I told you, like, when I went to a conference in E3, and they were just like, and this was like for the Xbox 360, I think it was. And they're just like, oh yeah, here's the Xbox 360, and here's the launch. And by the way, everyone, when you leave, we're giving you your free Xbox 360. And I'm
it's like leaving Entertainment 720, and they're like, don't forget your free iPad. Don't forget your free iPad.
Yeah. It is actually exactly like Entertainment 720. And the big bows they put on the cars, and if you're drunk, we'll drive you out. No, it is that. It is like, it is so over the top and ridiculous. And you're like, yeah, they're losing millions on this, but they don't care because that's what was for press. So obviously they want good press. But that is the point. You want good press. You want people to like you. And those are the people who really can, get the word out. I think that's also a problem, not a problem, but it's a problem nowadays. And why you don't see as many cool promotions is because of YouTube and social media. Now, everyone is a social media person. I remember that. I went to E3. One of the last E3s I went to, Like, and that's when social media was exploding. And two of the booths, it was Sony and EA, did not do a very good job. They actually did a really bad job with their E3. And in the old days, they'd be able to completely spin that and control that because there was only 200 plus people really on the press they'd have to worry about. But back then, you had Kotaku, you had me from Gaming Steve, you had Joystick, you had every single freaking blogger out there and YouTuber, and there was thousands of us, and we were all getting the word out about how EA and Sony was doing such a crappy job, and Microsoft, which was freaking killing it, by the way, they were, oh my God, were they doing a good job. They were so good. And then Nintendo was also doing a good job. That both Sony and EA said they weren't going to go to the next E3 because they were so pissed because they couldn't, quote, control the narrative. They couldn't control the story. And that was the first time I saw that, where the bloggers and the YouTubers were actually more influential than the official press.
Yeah. So, well, let me throw another thing that bothers me. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When I was younger and I went to Gen Con or whatever, I would go to these seminars to listen to people like John Tweet or Monty Cook or Rob Heinsoe or, whoever, talk about their game, the one that they made and the one that they were actively in the process of developing on. And you'd have the actual, creators of the game who are actively working on the game, talking about the game. And now people fucking come to listen to fucking schmucks like me.
No, I know. We went to PAX West, and I didn't recognize a single person on that media list.
people line up to listen to fucking, whoever the fuck influencer, and they don't fucking make the game. Why are you listening to us? I don't know shit. Professor Dojo doesn't know shit. Bob Worldbuilder doesn't know shit. Ginny D doesn't know shit. We don't know anything. We're not divining these games. We're not game designers. We're not making these games. We're not.
Derek.
Well, don't let me and Mark in the same there.
No, you guys make your game. So if you want to hear about what Roll for Combat is, let me put it this way, okay? Who should you listen to about the future of Roll for Combat? Mark and Steven or Derek, right? Or Bob Worldbuilder, it's like, and I love Bob and I love Professor Dungeon Master, but I'm throwing myself here on the pile. Like, I say on my channel all the time, I said, don't listen to us. We're just people who play the game like you. We just have a camera, and it's like, why are you lining up to watch these people when the actual creators of the game are here? The people who actually matter, the people who actually can give you a real answer. The people who are influencing the direction that the game that you love and behold is going
people who are entertaining and who are making people happy and filling their life with joy can also be the YouTubers.
You just described style over substance, and I think that's horrible. So, hey, this person's a 30-year game vet and knows everything about the game, and they're actually making the game that I wanted to, but they don't have a lot of riz, so I'm gonna go listen to that person instead. And it's just like,
I mean, that's sort of how YouTube works, right? Like my channel, Arcade Mark, just got a shout out from another Pathfinder channel that was just like, everyone should watch this channel, but nobody does. It's the channel that is your favorite Pathfinder YouTubers favorite channel to watch, because they all go on to it, watch it, learn the lessons from someone who made the game, and then make videos based on the lessons and analysis that they pick up from that. Right.
Full stop. There was a point in time, not that he does it anymore, there was a point in time where you probably had 30 times as many people listening to NoNat about Pathfinder 2 as you did Arcane Mark. And that's so fucked up, I can't even begin to possibly put my head around that. Hell, more people were listening to me than were listening to you about Pathfinder 2, and that's on a level of fucked up that I can't even begin to describe.
Amy Z says that my microphone is different in Roll for Combat versus Arcane Mark, but it's the same microphone. It's got to just be the mixing levels.
I do
in
got to be
from
OBS.
Right, because you're going directly to OBS on your channel versus going through Zoom on Steven's channel. Yeah,
I do a little bit of mixing too. By the way, we had some good super chats. Mark T wrote, "Not many people listen to Derek." That's
as well. They shouldn't.
right. And then Bad Relku wrote, Derek is my hero. Preach it, brother.
Yeah, I just, it's just crazy.
For 1,000 Chilean pesos.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, and now look, I'm not going to go out and tell you that every person who is a great game designer is necessarily a great public speaker. Okay.
Well, that's wait. Let's get to that.
Fair.
That's actually the problem. Is that a lot of these game designers are not good public speakers, and not only that, they're not good at live, and they don't want to do video.
Which is, all of that is fine. All I'm simply trying to say is that, you know, just remember that your favorite influencer, okay, that includes me, don't know what we're fucking talking about. So that's all I'm trying to say. Okay, if you want real information, go to the source. And it may be, you know, it's like, does anybody complain that their, you know, world-renowned Nobel laureate, Fields Medal prized math professor at MIT, they're like, well, he doesn't have a lot of charisma and riz. It's like, no, you're not going to him so that you can get a 10-minute amped up about top 3 math proofs to improve your game. Like, no, you're going to him to learn fucking math.
Unfortunately, because, you know, I was at MIT.
I know.
Okay, it's been a while, but
Yes.
when the ratings were up, that idea of effective communicator, do they have the riz, was actually something that was a major factor on ratings, and you would be much more likely to hear negative statements than positive, just like in everything else that we talked about today, right? Like, people would have reputations of which one was like was a better teacher. It would be almost entirely based on which one was like charismatic, able to like get everybody sort of into it. So for example, when I took intro biology, we had 2 teachers who were actually kind of world famous in their field, who taught the intro biology class because they wanted to get people to take the major. So they put superstars in there. Eric Lander, who was in the whole Human Genome Project, who did like genetics and certain things. And we had Weinberg, who is like a really famous cancer researcher, to the point that my dad, who knows about that stuff, is like, oh yeah, I know him. He's one of the most famous cancer researchers. But Lander was much more charismatic than Weinberg. And so I found them both to be very effective teachers. I do admit that Lander's ability to get like hundreds of people in the giant lectures to feel like they were in a small recitation with him and were like riffing off to like build biological engineering stuff was extremely impressive. But I thought they were both impressive teachers, but one of them had a much different rating than the other, that was based, I would say, more on charisma than their scholasticism, on professor ratings. So you're not entirely right about using the MIT example there.
Well, no, I'm trying to say is that, yes, like if I had to choose between the professor who hasn't published but has a great speaking voice versus the multiple Nobel laureate Fields Medal Prize winner, I'm going to listen to the Fields Medal Prize winner. I don't care that they may not have the same level of pop and sizzle. And again, you know, we talk about businesses. The truth of the matter is everybody out there is fighting for your attention, right? They're fighting for your views. They're fighting for your clicks. And so, you know, and again, you know, a shout out to my boy, Professor Dungeon Master, who basically calls it like it is and says, hey, these are the videos I like to make. These are the videos I think are great. These are the videos that I think really actually help educate you. None of you are interested in that. So since the algorithm and the base are punishing me for that, and since I'm in this to make money, I'm going to stop doing that. So yeah, it's a horrible, perverse incentive.
It seems like a lot of people listen to Derek despite his lack of riz.
Well, good.
You know what? I completely disagree. Derek has massive mad riz. You know, but you know, I think
I think that Derek at least has a solid enough riz for an influencer.
No, right. Definitely. And
I mean, but
he's not at the top level.
I also piss a lot of people off. I did see a couple.
Yeah, but Derek, that's the thing you talked about earlier when you were talking about you need the 9s and 10 out of 10s, and you don't care about anything except the 1 out of 10.
You're the one who said that. By the way, so think about bands. This was always fascinating because you look at all these professions, they all go through the same process. You look at bands from the 60s and 70s, and these guys were all geeks. Okay. They're all really into music. A lot of them are pretty ugly, but man, could they sing, or they're in good bands. Like, these guys were great musicians, but they had enough presence in live concerts, but in the world of social media and stuff, no way. But now in the 80s and especially the 90s and 2000s, you need to have it all. You need to have, a presence. You need to be pretty. You need to, be all made up. You have to be professional, and you have to be able to sing. I mean, take a look at like Rush is one of the examples, man. Rush, some of the best music in the world. Man, those guys are so ugly. They are
but that was the
guys on planet Earth.
But you just described like back in the 60s and the 70s.
Yeah.
Right, you had these rock gods, okay, who could play their instruments, and they looked like because they were a bunch of nerds.
Oh, they were.
But people, men and women, threw themselves at their feet and worshipped these people and thought they were the hottest people in the world. They could sleep with anybody they wanted to because people respected the skill and the talent. They didn't necessarily need these people to be whatever. Nowadays, it's all about the packaging. It's all about the polish, and these people may not even play an instrument or know how to even make music, right? But it's a carefully sold, packaged, delivered thing. And that's, I don't know.
No, I completely agree. In fact, that's why
I think the packaging was part of it even back then as well.
No, not to the level. It was more.
I didn't say it to the same level. I just said it was a part of it.
It was part of it, but
just in the same way you were talking about, Stephen, throughout the episode about branding and getting attached to a particular fandom.
Actually, talking about pack. I mean, that's why even people like, Derek is way into music. Like Lady Gaga, I really respect the hell out of her because she like freaking does everything.
Right.
I mean,
there are some legit artists that are still out there, but again, I mean, obviously tastes change and things change, and I get that. But like, it's just it's crazy to me how much people. There's a guy, Mike Underwood, one of the co-designers for Daggerheart. He does a live stream on Twitch. He posts his VODs to YouTube. This guy, he worked on the freaking game. I mean, he should be getting tens of thousands of views. Nobody watches him. Check him out, Mike Underwood, if you care about Daggerheart. His name is Mark Seipter. He's got this channel called Arcade Mark, and he wrote over 200 books, and he designed Pathfinder, and yet no one watches it. Come on, people! Right? Watch his channel. It's good. It boggles my mind. There was Ben Riggs has a podcast where he brings people on. Oh man, no one watches his channel. I love that channel. I love Ben Riggs. No one watches that channel. I love that channel. Yeah, absolutely. And the name of it escapes me. It's like reading D&D out loud. Yeah, reading D&D out loud. Thank you. And
how many views do you think that Arcade Mark had in the last 365
You're actually going up. I've been watching your views. They're going up. Getting that camera helped. I will tell you.
They're not actually going up. They were up high in July. But however, all YouTubers took a hit on August 10th. Oh, well, especially if a lot of people were watching. Yeah, everyone's getting destroyed. Especially if a lot of people had ad blockers and were watching on computers, they may not be counting as views anymore. My computer, which was like 80% of my viewers are computer, and it went down. But that being said, how many views do you think Arcade Mark had in the last 365 days compared to, or you can compare it to whatever you want to. How many do you think it had?
I'm trying to think how many I get. I'm going to say 100,000.
Okay.
Oh my God. No.
In 365? That's
in 365
days.
Oh, so in the last year?
The entire year.
Oh, you? Let me take out the calculator. Let's see.
So Derek says 100,000. That comes out.
I know what it is. You have 25,000 views.
Okay, so Derek, even despite how many times we talk about people not watching the channel, you are off by a lot.
Okay.
Steven was pessimistic, but he was very close. It was 29,100 views.
Pretty close. Steven
was quite close, but a little too pessimistic. 100,000 was way too optimistic. So as much as you told people, why aren't you watching this? You should watch this. People watch it even a quarter or like Between a
We
third
get
and a
that.
quarter as
We
much
get
as
that
you even
about
thought they were.
we get that like a month here. So
Yeah.
Also, people in chat thought that it was way worse. They thought it was. They
No, it's
they
not
thought
that.
it was
It's-
like 10
no.
times lower. More than 10 times lower than it actually was.
no.
But yeah, I mean, it's but again, you talked about the ad thing. People are like, "Oh, Derek, aren't you so concerned?" I said, "Fuck no, I'm not concerned." Do you know I make no money off of ad revenue? I'm not even kidding. I make probably maybe $1,000 a year, maybe $2,000 a year tops from ad revenue from YouTube. It is so irrelevant to my business. I might as well just turn off, honestly, and just spare people the having to sit through the ads. It doesn't even make sense for me to have it on.
So Nate
You
Jones,
made 1,000. That's actually that. I'm surprised you don't make more than that.
I do, but not from ad revenue.
Well, no, but
yeah.
so I see ad only. Yes.
By the way,
I forgot that my number includes subscriptions. Yeah, ad revenue. Ha.
Yeah. Let me take a look.
Nate
here.
Jones wants to know if this is why people are unhappy with D&D. Yes, because of ad revenue. You got to go back. This is all related. This is all related. Where basically we're saying that everyone is unhappy with everything, and D&D just because it's been out for so long. It's been out now for 50 years. Actually, here's the TTLR. Is that what it is? Whatever.
TLDR. It's the TLDR.
TLDR.
But
TLDR is D&D's been out for 50 years. People who have been playing D&D have been alive for a lot of that time, who have been playing for 50, 40, 30 years. They remember D&D as a very different game, and it is now not your father's D&D. And even people from 20 years ago don't like the current version of D&D. And they are very vocal about it, and they don't like certain aspects of what D&D is. Now, there's people who do like it, but the people who don't like it are very vocal. And even if you are one of the people who don't complain, you might not like it just because it's not doing something you like. But this can be anything. It literally can be anything whatsoever. It could be that you don't like the way the bard is being played. Like you can say, I like 99% of D&D, but I hate the bard, therefore I hate D&D.
I think I just actually, when you said that, I think I figured out why people are not happy with D&D.
What?
Okay. Because 5th edition, in my opinion, is a totally fine game. However, I believe very strongly that 5th edition was designed for the lowest common denominator. It is designed to be a very generic system that broadly appeals to the vast majority of people.
Correct.
When a ton of these people started playing D&D for the first time, or maybe they came back to it after 20 years or 30 years, and they started playing in the last 10 years, this was a fantastic entry point. However, as their gaming identity has grown, as they have become more of a gamer, more of a TTRPGer, they have found themselves to be having a growing disquiet with the game because it doesn't serve the function that they need it to serve. There are people for whom they feel like, wow, I wish the combat was more intense and balanced and had a lot more tactical options. 5e just doesn't deliver on that. Or people saying, this game doesn't really actually have anything for story arcs or character development. It's all really focused on 10-foot poles and combat. So I'm finding it dissatisfying that way. Somebody saying, there's not a lot of knobs and levers to really personalize my character mechanically. I'm finding myself dissatisfied with that. So as people's identity have sort of identified, right? They came in as a kid. You give a kid any toy, they're happy. But now, like people who started with D&D in the last 10 years, whether that's because they're brand new or because they came back to it, they are now D&D teenagers. And they have found their own identity. And what they are discovering is that it no longer identifies with D&D. And the problem is they are trapped in this ecosystem because there probably is a game that might work better for them. That person who wants a really in-depth, combat type experience, maybe they should be playing PF2 or they should be playing Draw Steel, or maybe they should go play 4th edition. But they can't. Because the structure, the marketing, the environment, the community that they have surrounded themselves within is a 5e ecosystem. Everything from D&D Beyond to their favorite YouTubers. So to abandon that would be to abandon that identity, even though they feel like You know, and I mean, this is a really weird way to describe it, but it's like a teenager growing up and all they've done is sports, and all their friends are into sports, and their parents are into sports, and their whole life is around sports. And now they're a teenager and they realize, I don't really like sports. I actually would rather get into theater. But they go, but if I were to change that, I would be not just abandoning, you know, baseball for theater. I'd be abandoning my friends. My parents, what my room is decorated like, you know, the stuff that my parents get me for my birthday, and all of my stuff. I've got baseball mitts and baseball gloves. I'd be giving up so much of my identity just to be able to switch to what I feel is where my true interests lie. And
So,
that's
Derek,
asking people a lot.
I think where you started was extremely accurate, but then I think that at least based on like numbers and things that I know from the overall TTRPG world, there are people like what you were talking about at the end there, but they're not really a high enough percentage to be causing a massive effect. What you started with, though, was so important, which is that because it's a broad funnel that's pulling in new people, that's pulling in people who haven't tried anything else before. That beginning of that story you told is very true. There's a lot of people who they were just starting out. This is what it was. But rather than there being a ton of people who tried to escape, but they were kind of stuck by the flypaper that they were attached to that was sticky, there are actually a large variety of people who want to stay with the inertia. And that actually, unfortunately for D&D, and in terms of if they didn't want to have people who got upset, not only the people you mentioned who want to leave have this issue, the people who want to stay, they got into it, like you said, you know, it was kind of generic, but they had something that they liked. And they made D&D 5e, which was a game that was flexible enough to be remade in their image. They made it into what they wanted it to be for the most part. Rather than, yes, we know that they could have played a game that inherently had more, what did you say, role-playing opportunities. They added things. They made it have role-playing. The problem is, going back to what Steven was saying before, this caused them, they have their own headcanon version of D&D 5e that involves fixing all the things that they wanted to fix and changing the things that they wanted to change. That is even more dangerous for a new edition or shift because of the fact that, forget the fact that the regular game could change when you make a new shift. Anything they built in that was headcanon or that was additional to make it work for their group is even more likely to get invalidated by a switch or a shift that's coming up. And so it's not just the ones who want to change, but the ones who have calcified on to the old way of playing. And calcified may sound like a bad word, but like they've glommed onto it. They've made it their own. They found this cozy niche that's perfect for them. And so that is it's something that will upset them too. The niche that they're on this branch, it's shaking, it's wobbling. They might fall off. So I think that they're damned if they do and damned if they don't in terms of whether someone was looking to change or to stay. You see what I mean?
This is what.
Yeah, I guess.
Wait. I want to say something, Derek, real quick. Is that think about I find it fascinating because the problem with D&D is that D&D is this game that continuously evolves and develops and is now a forever game. I mean, how many games can you say that have been continuously evolving and developing for 50 years?
I mean,
I can't think
basically,
of any.
I mean, Call of Cthulhu, Super Mario Brothers, you know, I could name a bunch.
Well, Super Mario Brothers is not 50 years old, so
okay, fine.
It came out in 1981. So
it's 45 years old.
And
my bad.
They do not change it that much. And in fact, when they did change it, and they went to what's the one? The one with the water jetpacks, which I thought was
Super Mario Sunshine.
Oh, what a piece of shit that game was, man.
And yet people loved it.
No, they did not. No, I actually, to this day, I will go down in history because I am one of the biggest platformers on planet Earth. I said, if you took this game and you took out Mario and you just released it, it would have been a fucking failure.
Well, look, you're looking at somebody who hated Super Mario 64 because it was in 3D. And I was like, it was okay. I'm like, it's a 2D platformer.
Interesting. It was an interesting concept, and it was a launch game and a launch title for it sold a lot of systems. That's what it really did. It sold a lot of systems and introduced people to a new technology, new paradigm that they didn't understand before, which really was the point of that game. But anyhow, now look at Monopoly. Monopoly, wrong. Monopoly is a marketing thing where all they do is they rebrand it so they can sell more, and no one plays Monopoly. Okay, you buy it. That if you watched any Roll for Comment, you know how I go into this. Is that half of all American households have a Monopoly set in them, and they had to figure out how to get the other half and how to get the people who already had half of it to buy it, which was a real problem. So they came up with the branding issue, and everyone buys it. They put it in it. They identify it because they buy the Stranger Things Monopoly, or they buy the South Park Monopoly, or the Mets Monopoly, or whatever Monopoly they like, and they're like, that's cool, or the Simpsons Monopoly, and they put it on their shelf and they never open it and never play it because they just like it because it identifies with them and it gives them a feeling of happiness, and that's it. Anyhow,
so we had a super chat that will possibly squirrel us off in another direction. So right before I do that, Derek, guess how much my ad revenue was? I found it for Arcade Bark. It was actually higher than I thought.
Is this just ad revenue?
Just ad. I was able to take away these member subscriptions, which were actually like 3/4 of it.
Let's see. I have 5 cents.
And Monopoly Go was not Monopoly.
$200,
by the way.
$85, which was more than I thought because there were a few days that made like $2, and I was thinking of my average rate. $85 was significantly more than I thought for 365 days of ad revenue.
So, by the way, this is my Derek flex. There's a couple of sites. One is called Social Blade, where if you pay for premium, like what they do is they basically scrape YouTube data off of sites to sort of track like how different YouTubers are performing. And I pay for it because I'm a data guy and I like it. Anyways, what's interesting is obviously my views are nothing, compared to Professor Dungeon Master and Ginny D and all those other people. But here's what's interesting. Amongst a large group of TTRPGers, okay, my watch time, my total watch time.
No, your watch time is insane.
Well, your watch time is high because you have 6-hour video.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I actually beat some of these top tier TTRPG YouTubers in watch time because of how long my videos are, and the fact that people actually say and watch them.
Could you game the system?
I definitely
not gaming the system. If he was gaming the system, he would actually do something.
Gaming the system.
Well, no, because what I do is I make a 6-hour video, and the very first thing I do after the video is finished and it goes up on a VOD is I go into my monetization options and I turn off all the mid rolls because I don't want people.
Why do that?
Because by default YouTube will literally put an ad break every 5 minutes. And for people who don't know how YouTube ad breaks work, it doesn't mean that you're going to get served an ad. It means that there's an opportunity for an ad to be served. Anyways, so point is, if I can't do anything about the pre-rolls unless I literally turn off all monetization. But once you start watching my video, if there's ever ads that are popping up, it's because I didn't remember to go back and turn off the ads in the mid-roll. So when I make a 6-hour video, like you should be getting an ad every 10 minutes if YouTube had their druthers. And you don't, because I'm like, that's bullshit. That's so stupid. Anyway, so yes, I don't even monetize my own platform very well.
There you go. So the actual super chat was from Edward for $5. I have to watch the VOD. I saw that Steven had Nimble last stream. How did you find it? What did you think of it? Apologies if this is interrupting.
I love the layout. I thought the layout is actually what the layout of these books is really, really, really good. And I didn't read them that carefully, but I do like what they did with the books. And, I mean, it's funny because a lot of people I know were reading this and saying, this is what D&D should have been. That they felt like this is like what they should have done with D&D, but they never will. And we've gone over that 1,000 times on this channel, why they won't. It's nice. I mean, it's another version of D&D. It's like, it's somewhere between.
Now wait, are you looking at Nimble 5e or are you looking at Nimble?
This version, Nimble. What is this called? Nimble, the fast tactical TTRPG.
Well, because in his version of Nimble, like there's no attack roll, you do auto damage. It's very different than 5e.
Well, I just saw something with advantage. Maybe I was just flipping through it.
I'm just saying, like, I know that the skill system I still think uses a D20, but anyways.
I thought there was. I thought maybe, I don't know, maybe.
Evan sent me a box set, and I'm going to review it at some point or look at it. So
I ordered it, and Evan wrote me. He goes, "Oh my God, why'd you buy it?" I was like, "Because I wanted to see it."
One time I got it for free, and you didn't.
No, he sent me a whole bunch of other free stuff for it, by the way. So,
okay. Well,
so boo on you. You get free stuff. I sent you free stuff all the time. I get free stuff from you. Crap over there. It's true. You do get free stuff from me. I didn't get a chance to look at it, but I think it looks gorgeous.
Nate, Nimble 5e was Evan's original. That's the guy who created it. Nimble 5e was just him kind of cleaning up and making 5e a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more smooth. And it was like a 10-page, 15-page document of PDF house rules that he originally did. And people said, wow, these are really cool ideas. And so he kind of took those ideas, expanded them, and kind of made his own system. Now, don't get me wrong, it still has a firm foot of DNA in sort of the 5e-esque D20 thing. So this second version of Nimble, but is designed to not just be a set of house rules for 5th edition D&D. It's actually its own standalone system, even if a lot of the DNA is kind of 5e coded. What's really changed in his Nimble 2.0 is that the combat system doesn't have attack rolls. You just roll damage.
Yeah.
Which is, like, Mythic Bastionland does that. Into the Odd does that. Knave does that. Well, all those things.
I don't know. We've had these discussions with my group. So look,
Draw Steel does that.
In the end of the day, it comes down to, okay, so I play a lot of tennis. My wife plays a lot of tennis. She plays every day. And her and I never play tennis together. And the reason is because my wife loves to play tennis matches. She loves to play tennis and she loves to play matches constantly. That's all she plays. I like to play tennis, but as she likes to call them, I like to play fun games, like games with the pro games, like fake games. Like, we play advantage, disadvantage. We play, points and stuff. They're not tennis matches. We're just playing for fun. And I hate playing tennis matches. So we both like tennis, but my wife wants to play in matches and she hates playing fake fun games. I hate matches and I like playing fun games.
So you're a Timmy, your wife is a Spike.
That's right.
Yeah, it sounds like she's really competitive.
I hate you both. Anyhow, the point is, that was very good though. I'll give you both the hero point. The point is that I appreciate and like Nimble. And that's why I'm more into the layout design, the presentation. To me, that's a big part of it. I might play once or twice, but that's it. Me likes super crunch, insanely complex, very hard to play games like Pathfinder 2nd edition. Well, it can get up there. That I don't even think it's that hard. That's the whole joke. It's like, as people think it's hard, I was like, boy, you should have played 1st edition D&D if you want to talk about hard, man. When there was no internet, no nothing. You should have been played Legend of Zelda when there was no internet and no help guides. Okay, and you'd have to figure out the whole thing on your freaking own in the 87. That's the stuff
you
I
could
like.
call up Nintendo Power.
If you were a loser, you would call up the Nintendo hotline.
$2.50 a minute.
Oh my God, which was back then like $10 a minute.
I know.
No, I never called ever.
That's
Never.
true. Nate, what does a Johnny tennis player look like? Nate, I think a Johnny tennis player looks like somebody who plays tennis, racquetball, squash, high-lie, pickleball. They just play all the racket sports.
I don't know about that. No, I think that the Johnny tennis player is like, well, I don't care if I win this point, but wouldn't it be interesting if I did like a kind of a curved shot and to kind of see if I can get it like right into the corner there. That's like a kind of, and then they'd have to run there, and I can make them run all the way to the other side. And it'd be interesting to just see how much of a workout I can give the other player if I make these complicated angles on the shots. Whether I win or lose is academic. It's just all about the combinations.
Yeah, I'm a Timmy man. I love Timmying my.
Well,
tennis.
I have freely admitted that as I have grown older, I have become less and less of a Spike and more of a Timmy. My interest in games now is not to be challenged. I'm not trying to prove anything. That's why games like the what do they call them? The Souls games are so unappealing to me.
Exactly.
I don't need validation from a video game.
Yeah.
I don't need And I'm not saying that in a bad way, but for some people, they get this sense of pride
accomplishment,
and accomplishment that comes from
Yeah,
beating
yeah,
something that's challenging. Very true. I don't care. I don't care. I am just as likely to be like, well, that's stupid. I'm never playing that again. So yeah,
Souls games aren't really that hard though. Like I didn't play them for a while.
Okay,
I thought
super nerd.
I thought that they were going to be like needlessly hard just for the purpose. Like people told me they were like,
"Oh my god,
this is
stop
this
with this story!
You
that was from 10
you
years
can't
ago.
Go anywhere without just getting killed or stabbed from behind, and it's completely unfair." And then when I actually played it, it was actually okay.
Wrong.
It was very hard what I did, but I later found out that I went to an area that you were supposed to learn was too hard to go to, and I beat it.
Ooh.
Right? But then when I played the actual game that I was supposed to play, it was actually not very hard.
That was the original
Dark Souls 1.
I know. Dark Souls 1 is so unbalanced. Play some of the newer ones and see how you do.
But regardless, all I'm saying is that's just not my style of game. So I'm much more now of a Timmy type RPG, certainly RPGer. All right, I don't really care about the challenge aspect, and I don't really also care about like playing an RPG as a means to express myself, right, as a way to sort of show off my creativity and my uniqueness, and so I don't really care about building a cool PC and all that other stuff. That stuff doesn't.
Do you
really
care about the lore? The world lore, so then you're not Vorthos, and you do, but you're kind of a rules nerd a little bit. So you're probably a Melvin.
I am a Melvin.
Timmy.
Yeah, I'm a Melvin.
Timmy.
Yeah, I'm a Melvin Timmy. That being said, I do appreciate where the lore of a expression, the expression of lore is given through mechanical expression, not through flavor text. So, like. In Magic cards, it's where the card doesn't have any flavor text, but when you read the mechanics, you go, "Oh, I get it. That's very clever."
So the ludonarrative consonants.
Yes, exactly. Ludonarrative consonants.
I will admit that. So in terms of the Magic play styles, and I've said this before on the show, but I had a friend in college who was obsessed with saying which of the Magic play styles every person was, whether they played Magic or even any related games or not. He would just be like, well, Chris is just the stereotypical Timmy. And he would just say this about every person. And he just got very confused by me. And eventually he was like, Mark, you define my classification, because I thought it was a pie chart where somebody is this percent Timmy, and that means they have to be less Melvin or more or less Johnny to be that Timmy. But you're just very high in all five of the things. Like, and that seems to be where I'm at.
Mark is the Uber gamer.
No, it doesn't make me a better gamer in any way. Sometimes it makes me. Sometimes it's a problem that I'm high in all of them.
Too good. That's this. Mark is like, I'm too good. I'm too good.
Right. No, it doesn't make me better because I'm better to be high in wanting these things. It makes me more demanding, right? In that I have all five of these categories. So, for example, I like the gameplay.
Everything is unsatisfying to Mark.
I don't like the lore of Dark Souls, but it's always like, it seems like it's nothing, but then the fans of Dark Souls will just be like, well, if you read that one line that was in that sword, and then later, like 30 hours later, there was like a piece of flavor text in a tooltip somewhere, and then you would realize that there was this whole tragic backstory that was hidden in that. It was like
Mark on a job interview. I would say my greatest weakness is that I work too hard.
No. That's not it. No, please, no. He says job interview. Marcus, my greatest weakness is that I'm constantly struggling to find something I don't know or understand.
That's really not a weakness.
Spoken like somebody who doesn't have it. Spoken like somebody who doesn't have any weaknesses. Mark.
He's like, my weakness is that I have no weaknesses.
Right,
it really is a strength. Therefore, is it a weakness or is it a strength? It really depends on how you look at it. Yes. And for a job interview, yeah, it could be as a weakness, but I don't know. It could be a strength.
I don't think that being high in all of the gamer types makes you stronger in any way. Right? Why does being high in Vorthos make you a stronger gamer?
Well, because it means you enjoy a greater percentage of the product that you are buying.
Oh my god.
Okay, I can buy that, but it could also mean that I'm more likely to be left behind if the product doesn't include all 5 of
Yeah,
the
but
things.
according to you, that's an interesting point, which is to say, like, does that mean that not having those things, like, do you need all of those things to be present in order to be enjoyable, or does it simply mean that you can be any of those things and enjoy?
So I don't know if
I think
this
it
is
depends on the situation. If enough of them are dropped, I might enjoy it less. But I tend to enjoy games more that have all of them.
So you want a more complete game?
Yes.
That makes sense. I mean, so yeah, that actually is a weakness in a certain sense, because it might mean that there's certain games that you can't enjoy because maybe it doesn't really go too deep into the lore and you enjoy that element of the game, or the mechanics are sort of underdeveloped and you enjoy that part of the game. So without all of those parts being present, your enjoyment is Derek says
lower.
More maximalist.
Yeah. So I don't think it's actually purely a strength, but perhaps it's an advantage as a game designer because I can understand the mindsets of people who are for those 5 different play styles.
I think that's very true. That actually I completely
I
agree
do
with.
like Mark. We have a quote here. Tyler's Mark is, "Nothing goes over my head. My reflexes are too fast. I would catch it."
Drax the Destroyer.
The Destroyer. That is so true. By the way, this is a good one. I don't know if this is a real Mark Rosewater quote, but it would be a fantastic one. "Your greatest weakness is your greatest strength taken too far."
I think that's a pretty accurate statement.
That is damn good. That's like put on the wall good.
It's
good.
almost like Mark Rosewater is a really smart guy.
Mark Rosewater is a goddamn genius.
Of course he is.
He's the GOAT.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if Morrow is the originator of that quote. It seems like that might be a truism that's been around for a long time, but I could definitely see Morrow expressing that idea.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, we get Spider-Man this week.
Actually, so I was going to bring that up. Is that so? We have these games, and actually, I got derailed with people talking about Monopoly. Is that we have these games that really haven't lasted the test of time quite to the extent that D&D has, except for a game called Magic the Gathering, which not only has lasted, but has gotten stronger every year. It's becoming a bigger brand year after year after year. And yet somehow, even through everyone complaining, everyone always bitching, everyone moaning, has lived through it. And we could just do a whole show on that easily.
Yeah.
You could do multiple shows on that.
Fun,
but
fun. I know you know this, Stephen, and I'm sure Mark knows this as well. But for those of you who don't know, interesting story about Magic the Gathering. Mm-hmm. Wizards of the Coast, right, before they didn't own D&D at the time, right? They were a small startup company that made modules for D&D, and they were looking to pitch a new game. And Richard Garfield, who was a math PhD postdoc at University of, I believe, Philadelphia, came out to pitch them a game, which they said, we don't want to make a board game. It's too complicated. They would, by the way, eventually make that game. That game was called Robo Rally. It's actually kind of a fun game. But they said, what we really want is something quick and portable that people can play between their D&D games at like conventions. Mm-hmm. So they were saying you have people who it's like, I'm in a game from 10 to 2, and then I have a game from like 4 to 8. What am I going to do for those 2 hours? They're like, we want something quick and easy and portable. Do you think you might have a game like that? And Richard Garfield had been working on a game that at the time was called The Five Magics, and he said, I think I have an idea. Let me go back. And they kind of worked on that and developed that, and then he pitched them the game that became Magic the Gathering. But Magic the Gathering was originally designed as a game to basically be played like while you were waiting for your D&D game to start, which I always think is really, really interesting, especially
I do remember hearing that.
That like 4 years later or 5 years later, they fucking bought TSR and
so
with literally pocket change.
On that greatest
literally pocket
quote.
Change.
I went down a rabbit hole, and it wasn't immediately discernible because the variant was different, but the original was your greatest strength begets your greatest weakness, which has been attributed to William Shakespeare, but it's not like from any of his plays, so nobody knows if he really said that out loud at some point, but people say that he did.
All right, so
And
he
it's
said
from
it, then
around
Mark Rosewater said it. Now you can say it. Now you could quote me saying it. There you go.
There you go.
You can just keep quoting
So
people.
it did sound like the kind of thing that had that like Shakespearean gravitas to it, that it could be a famous quote.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I guess that is.
So I think that in that way, I think D&D's greatest strength is also its greatest weakness, right? Which is that D&D is designed to be a broad, appealing game. And
the game that's for everyone will never quite be exactly what you want whenever it shifts even a small amount. Because when you're trying to have a big tent, and that's not just for D&D, but for anything in life, you're always going to have issues. Once you've brought everybody in, that's a strength. That's in Reed's law, it's an exponential strength. Right. But it's also a weakness in that you have so many people who want different things that are mutually exclusive now.
Well, especially as, like I was saying, as your customer base, your player base begins to mature and sort of starts coming into their own, and then they've been now they are, now they've been playing for 5 years, 7 years, and now they've kind of developed their own identity, and now suddenly they're realizing, hey, I am more specialized than I thought I was originally, or whether maybe I was originally. And I've realized I really appreciate this part of the game. And this generic, appealing to everyone game that is 5e no longer strikes the chords that I needed to, because I have grown as a gamer into this direction, and the D&D game hasn't grown with me.
Or it grew away from that direction, right? Let's think about it like almost as a graph. We were this big tent. We're this giant circle Venn diagram, and our circle contains all of the 5e players, and it's big, right? But your group might have matured to be over here in this corner, where you're near the edge of the circle on my left. I don't know if it's being shown on the left here. All right. So, but if the circle in the new edition or something moves just a little bit into 2024, now all those people who were on the left got moved out of the circle. They had been inside of the circle before, although, albeit, like you said, Derek, on the edge, they were very much doing a niche thing. The D&D wasn't in the middle, in the bullseye that was like, this is the core of D&D, but they were making it work. And now they can't. It's just slightly out of reach because of a very small change. And that's sort of the weakness of the strength. Was we had this giant circle and all these people fit inside it, but the weakness is, now if we make even any change, we're going to be pissing off certain people that are there.
We had a super chat from Smendon.
Oh yeah, Smendon for £5 British. What do you guys think about games where you always damage in an attack even if you miss or roll low? So I actually like it better if you at least have better odds of doing something than D&D and Pathfinder 2 give you on your attack rolls.
Yeah, me too.
To wit, I significantly attempted in Pathfinder 2 to make it so that a regular non-critical failure on an attack roll did half minimum damage, an amount that you would write down on your character sheet so you never needed to calculate it on the fly. And I thought it would be easy enough to apply it. Yep. However, in practice, enough people were hung up on it in our internal playtest, which, to be clear, even having critical failures versus successes versus critical successes by succeeding by 10 or more or failing by 10 or more was already in question in those internal. Enough people said that it slowed them down, or that they were worried that we wouldn't be able to get the fans to like the 4 degrees of success. And the other designers all said the 4 degrees had a chance of being too complex and slowing down the game, but they really said a playtest is the time to test it, because it had so much benefit if it didn't slow down the game. I appreciate them for taking my idea, which it was, I pushed it. I pushed hard. And so I was therefore willing to compromise and say, okay, we won't do glancing blows. We won't test that, because you're right. Because when you test something and people don't like it, even if it's because of one more extreme thing, it's too late to be like, well, we'll take back glancing blows. Are you okay with the 4 degrees of success now? Because they just would have not liked the 4 degrees of success if that happened. Yeah. But if I could have just done whatever I wanted and you know what? Whatever. Who cares about compatibility? Just do Mark's thing. I would have put in glancing blows that did half minimum damage. You can see on Arcane Mark, one of our actually semi-popular videos is the what if for things that didn't make it into the game. And then martial classes would have gotten special ways to deal with glancing blows. Like barbarians, who are, always in the middle of stuff with low amounts of armor, get like just natural resistance to the damage of glancing blows, which is so low already that even a small amount of resistance will make it not do much. Whereas shield characters can get free extra shield blocks to block the glancing blows. And that way, since casters don't get those, they don't need such lousy hit points, because the glancing blow prevention that the martial classes have would inherently help them stand in the front, because even weak monsters were going to do glancing blows to your casters. They would eventually come down, but not in a swingy way where they just get killed immediately because of their low hit points, but because they would chip down and they would see it happening and have time to react. Like, I had all these game design reasons why I thought it would be a great gameplay loop to do that. But ultimately, because of the complexity load, and I agreed with the decision because I was worried. I didn't want people to take back 4 degrees of success. I thought that was crucial to the success of the game.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm in favor of higher
and if you go and watch one of our earlier videos, it was called "Missing is Not Fun." You'll see all my thoughts. And basically, I 100% agree with Mark. I even postulated a world in which, again, you did some sort of minimal damage on a miss. I don't know if we said half minimum. I might have just said minimum, and then critical failures feel like a real, now you know what that is. It's a 0 damage. Okay, wait, but I agree with everything Mark was saying too. Like, I remember even talking about barbarians. When you're doing 30 or 40 damage a hit, having 2 or 3 or 4 points of damage reduction doesn't really feel, I mean, yes, it does add up, of course, but it doesn't feel that substantial. But
but if the glancing blow was
5, or 5 or 6,
and it was happening a lot of times, or 5 or 6,
correct.
That's huge.
And it actually feels very chunky. And so I actually 100% agree with everything Mark is saying.
So wait, my 2 cents. So last week I played a game, we're playing first edition Pathfinder, and the fighters were going and they're attacking 2-3 times around. And, sometimes they hit, sometimes they miss. And then you had Jason, who was playing the wizard, and he would get 1 attack per round because he's casting a spell, and he missed every single time. He actually rolled 3s. I think he rolled nothing but 3s. That it was weird.
Well, it's hard to hit if you're rolling nothing but 3s.
Well, literally, I think it was like 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Like, that's it.
And that's why you don't use ranged spell attacks.
But he's level 1. It was a pre-gen. But the point is that he was really getting upset. And I was like, and by the end, he's like, okay, this sucks, and I get it. It's like, yeah, casting spells, and you cast 1 spell as opposed to, like, if you're a fighter, even if you are missing, at least you're rolling the dice, and at least you're doing something. Maybe you're missing constantly. We used to call, so Chris was a monk, and he always had haste on him by the end, so he was always doing 5 attacks per round, and we would call him a flurry of misses, because he would do 5 attacks a round and miss all 5 times. All the time. That
reminds me of Pathfinder 1 or 3.5 D&D, where monks had so many attributes they needed. We also called it flurry of misses when they would skip missing. He would always miss.
In fact, I think literally went all the way to level 20, and only once in the entire 6-year campaign did he hit all 5 times with his flurry of blows. Once he would hit 4 times pretty frequently, but 3 every so often.
You don't need to hit all 5 times. I know, but we did it just because misses if you missed once.
I know.
The flurry of misses was when one we had a monk who one time made 6 attacks.
Oh yeah, he missed all the time. He would do 6 attacks and then re-roll them with hero points and still miss.
Let me also throw onto the fire here that my general belief is, if you are fighting monsters that are your level or higher, unless you are significantly buffed or they are significantly debuffed, even making a first map attack at -5 or -4 is a pretty significant reduction in your odds of hitting.
Oh yeah.
To say nothing of making a -10 or a -8 map attack.
Oh yeah.
You might as well just throw yourself on the ground and stand up from prone. You will have had just as much of effect on the game.
Yeah.
I see so many people.
Hail Mary.
I mean,
I call it Hail Mary for a reason.
You can't be upset when your Hail Mary misses.
No, but my point is,
hold on, Derek. I wouldn't be, because I know probability, but when you say you can't, the generic many people can. I've seen a lot of people who rage and they're like, how could I have missed that? I was like, you only had a 10% chance to hit with that, right?
Right. like if you're
They were like, no, I needed a 19. I was like, yeah, that's a 10%. That's a 1 in 10.
Right, but
90% of the time that was gonna miss.
By the way,
but like if you're hitting on an 8, and then now you're using an unarmed attack or you're using an agile attack, so now you have a -8, so you're hitting on a 16, but it's end game, so you have a +3 bonus from a status bonus from say like a inspire courage or a prayer or whatever, and now now I need a 13, and they've made the opponent prone or whatever, you're flanking it, so now you need an 11
50 shot.
Now you have a 50-50
chance of missing.
Correct. Even with all those things stacked in your favor, it's still a coin flip.
So wait, I want to talk about this. So this is an interesting thing. So video games, whenever they show you stats cheat, they do this all the time. So the thing with D&D and war games that we have true odds. We know what the odds are because we can be like, okay, if I need this, it's a 10% chance or 5% chance to miss. And then you miss. And you're like, God damn it. In video games, they'll say, okay, they do what's called, they make it feel better than it really is. So, for example, if you have a 90% chance to hit, the actual chance to hit might be something like
97 or something.
Right, 95%. So it feels even better when you do hit. You're like, oh, and also if you miss, because if you really did miss 1 out of every 10 times, because you're bad with math and bad with memory, you're going to think you missed all the time. So video games constantly do this, where they will always give you better odds than they show you. Always. Not always, but most of the time. Most of these games do this because they want it to feel like you're winning and you're doing well. Plus, it's a video game, so who cares? You know,
video games do this kind of thing all the time. It's not just with odds. There's a bunch of stuff that was calculated because it's basically cheating for you, but not telling you, because once people know about it, they get mad. Other examples of this: games with like giant rocket launchers that do an AoE, like first-person shooters. Generally, if it hits nobody, it does a pixel search to see if there was somebody who was pretty close to being chipped at the edge of it, and then just kind of gives it to you. Almost like your GM when you're playing Theater of the Mind, who just decides to give you the fireball hitting somebody or something like that, because they know that people are going to get mad, and you feel better if you hit one thing that you actually didn't really hit, but almost hit. Not only that, in those first-person games, many of them slow down the enemies to about 70 to 80% speed when they're out of view, because people felt like it was cheating, it was unfair when things were moving at their real speed. When you couldn't see them, it's like, what? I keep getting hit by something that I couldn't see. To the point that, like, knowing this, sometimes in those kind of games, if I'm being attacked by too many enemies, I'll actually turn to face the guy I want to fight and make sure that the other enemies are out of view so that they'll be moving at 70% speed.
So anyhow,
and
with
that's why video games suck.
Well, anyhow,
they don't suck. That's how they trick you to make you feel better about what you're doing.
So this thing of, I feel like that's what this is that you're always doing damage. I feel like that's what that is. That is the video game version of the TTRPG of like.
Well, the difference is it's not a trick though, Steven.
It's not like
you're openly doing it.
Right, you're openly doing it, but in the end, you're still rolling because it's like, okay, am I doing 1, 2, 3, or 4 points of damage? I'm just generalizing here, you know. And if you roll low, you only do 1 point of damage. But if you roll high, you do 4 points of damage. So then people, instead of being angry because they missed, will now over time get angry because they're not doing a lot of damage. Now the other problem is that you are always going to have the monsters hit you. Because people don't like, because they're like, wait, I want it so that I always hit them, but I don't want it that they're always hitting me.
Well, Steven, that's the secret to my design for Glancing Blows, was that the PCs were going to have abilities that help them mitigate the glancing blows on certain classes, and that the monsters were not going to have those. So that way, because if you just said that monsters didn't get it and PCs did, people might be like, that seems like weirdly unfair that this system exists and it's not even being used in the same way. But to have it exist for everyone and to therefore allow weaker monsters. By the way, people often ask in Pathfinder 2, why do so many monsters, especially like the level -1 and 0 monsters, have a sort of a soldier build point where they have like fighter accuracy, but then not the extreme damage, instead of having like the brute build? Why is a baseline that they could have accuracy that's higher than the PC's accuracy by like 2 in a lot of cases, or equal to the fighter? The actual answer is, back when glancing blows existed, the monsters had lower accuracy because you could use them and they would hit you with a glancing blow. But now that they can't do that, and they need to be useful across a wide variety of levels, it turns out putting them at a slightly elevated accuracy but not good damage as you would otherwise give them or as a PC would have, makes them usable at a wider variety of levels than they would be if they had the lower accuracy, because they start being likely to do basically nothing when they're below you by enough. So it was actually a result of glancing blows.
So anyhow, with this whole thing is that, in my mind, okay, yes, it's great. You hit, you always do 1 point of damage, perhaps. But if you're always doing 1 point of damage, or 2 or 3, the problem is, okay, then how does the hit points work? Because it's how does it scale? Because, okay, at level 1, fine, you're doing 5% of their hit points. Okay. I just came from a game where we were all level 20 for quite a long time. We were level 15 to 20 for well over a year, where people were literally hitting and doing 50, 70, 100 hit points per hit. No problem. Yeah. And like, okay, how do you do that? It's like, okay, I hit, I do 1 point of damage. You're literally doing, one of my characters, like Chris's character had 250 hit points. Who cares? You know, it's like 1 point of damage. You might as well be doing no points of damage. You might as well be missing. So how does it scale over time? How does it scale? I mean, I don't know how Draw Steel does it because I didn't read the rules, but how does it handle it when you get to higher levels? Are you doing 5 points of damage? Are you doing 10 points of damage? How does it work?
Yes, essentially. I mean,
Okay.
it scales pretty heavy. But remember, in Draw Steel, there is no attack roll. So
there's no. I know you. But isn't there a roll to see how much damage you do?
Like, right, you either do 5, 7, or 9.
Well, that's the point. Is that you still roll, which ends up being, quote, an attack roll, and over time you're going to conclude. You're still going to be upset because you're doing minimum damage instead of no damage.
The distinction, though, is the difference between doing something versus doing nothing. The problem with RPGs is that it happens at a table or it happens at a virtual table, and you had to wait 15 minutes or 10 minutes to get your turn, and then the net result of your turn was you accomplished nothing.
Yeah, you're right.
And the fact of the matter is, if there is an enemy and they're almost dead, and then you go to your turn and you roll the minimum damage and you kill it, you are not going to feel bad about that, because what you did exchange was your turn for an effect on the game. And that is all people get upset about. It's when they exchange their turn and their time to do nothing, to accomplish nothing.
It can feel very bad for people. I'll give you an example, even of a character I was playing. I didn't, but some people might have. I played my Fire Elemental Avatar on Monday. We had the combat that lasted 3 rounds, okay? So during those 3 rounds, we were facing 2 powerful opponents. 2 of the 3 rounds, I didn't do anything because of bad rolls or other things like that or situations. On the other round, however, I crit and nearly one-shotted one of the 2 enemies. And then another ally did like the remaining 4 damage that the enemy had left in hit points, and then we dropped them. So, like, that's very feast or famine, though. I think that I was fine with that, but because of the fact that so much of the combat I didn't do anything, that many players probably would have been happier if their character did half as much damage as I did on 2 of the 3 turns, instead of doing all of it in 1 and doing 0 on the other 2 turns, right? Because then across the flow of even half of the damage I did would have been plenty. It would have made a difference. Everyone would have been giving me a cheer for it. But it would have felt like to many players that they were accomplishing more to do it over 2 rounds, even though obviously it was better to do it over 1 round. And by the way, it was the first round where I got the crit, and that's part of why the fight only took 3 rounds.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that is part of modern design because, man, I mean, you're talking about people who used to spend all day playing D&D, and now they spend 2 hours and they're done. You know, like 2 hours is like, I've had enough.
Well, there's a couple of things. One, right. D&D sessions used to be like, all right, we're heading over to Gary's house at 6 o'clock. We're going to be there till 2 a.m. Right. We're going to play for the next 8 hours. So that's number 1. Number 2, if you've ever played BXD&D or whatever like that, it's like a player's turn maybe takes 30 seconds. because there's nothing to do. Like, you don't have this list of feats or powers or abilities, and you're not like adding up 17. It's just like, I'll go attack that ogre. Cool. D20 hit. Cool. Miss. Cool. Next. That's your turn. That's as long as it took.
Honestly, in some of those older editions, it took longer to calculate like the time
Oh, way
speeds of the
longer.
weapons and
Oh,
where
yeah.
that would move you in the initiative than it did to actually do the turn.
The math took longer than the turns by far. You would roll the dice and then spend 5 minutes figuring out the results. I mean, that's
No, it did not. No. All you did is roll a D20, add your bonus, tell the GM, and then they just see if you hit. How is that hard?
Yeah, but they had to use Thaco or the thing that they had before Thaco, which was like
that thing even better before Thaco was even better, because then you just looked it up on the chart, which
yeah,
is
that
on
was
your GM
worse.
screen.
Looking
No,
up
it
on
was
the
better.
chart takes a while.
No, it doesn't. You just go.
I just
And
had
then
bad DMs back
Okay,
then.
Steven's 5 minutes is obviously an exaggeration, but it
exaggerating. I
is
was
true
exaggerating.
that it would take longer to look it up on the chart to recalculate your new initiative when
Right.
you were like, oh,
Also-
well, dagger moved your initiative by this much.
Also,
Then it did to actually run the real meaty
Also-
parts of the turn.
Yeah.
Also, weapon speed factors was only in AD&D first edition. It was an optional rule that no one used in second edition, and it wasn't definitely not in basic D&D. In basic
Yeah, that's
D&D,
why I said
you
in
didn't even
AD&D that when you had weapon speeds, that was taking longer than anything else.
right.
Yeah.
Hell, in basic D&D, you use group side initiative, so it was just like
That's true.
we all go, they all go. With next round we roll. Anyways, it's very fast.
Batch initiative, my least favorite initiative.
Oh
It's
my
fast
god.
though. It's fast.
It's lightning fast. It's lightning fast.
Is it
That's a
lightning?
great thing for it. I
Is it-
really don't like it.
Oh.
I
Wow.
yeah. I mean, I prefer phased group initiative, but that's neither here nor there.
Wow. We're fighting.
See,
words here.
I've also heard that from Andrew Layton. Even Gary Gygax didn't use weapon speed, according to Luke Gygax. He added it just to satisfy moaning simulationist wargamers in Lake Geneva. And
Oh wow, that's funny.
I could totally see that as well.
See, when we were young when we started playing, we thought we were supposed to use weapon speed.
Yeah, no, we never used it.
It was
we,
bad.
We always
We
thought it
then
was
didn't
stupid.
use it after that.
Yeah, we always thought it was stupid.
Oh, we're going to be hanging out with Luke in a couple months, and
Right.
you can ask him all those stories.
So I like Jaeger. I mean, I love. If you ever get a chance to play BX with me at a con, you'll see I have my my printed out. Their what is it called when you put the clear plastic thing around something?
Laminate.
Xeroxed. I have my laminated initiative cards. Each player gets a stack of 5, and we just go around the table really quick. And I go, "What are you doing this round? What are you doing this round? What are you doing this round?" And you throw down your card. It'll either say like attack. It'll say like melee, range, or melee, missile, magic, maneuver. And I don't remember the 5th one is. And
Did they all start with the M though?
they all start with an M. And you throw it down as you describe what you're doing, and then I go, cool. And then when you roll someone on your side rolls a D6, I roll D6. Whoever gets the higher roll goes first, but we go in phases. So
maybe it's melee, missile, magic maneuver, and
yeah, meh. I don't know. It's
I like
miscellaneous. That's like
there you go.
I don't. It's not miscellaneous, but I should make a miscellaneous card for all the times when somebody wants to do something that doesn't fairly clearly fit into
Right.
those categories. Anyways, and then what'll happen is the missiles go first, and we go in the initiative order. Then the movement, then the melee, then the magic, and that's the order that we go in. So that way, it's like, even if your side lost initiative, but if you have a missile weapon, you can still shoot before people move or melee or magic. Anyways, and of course, in the classic style, if you chose magic, if you take any damage in those preceding phases, your spell is of course ruined.
There you
So
go.
you have to be well protected in order to cast a spell in magic in a close combat melee. Anyways, it's really fun. It's really fast, and people get. And a lot of times they're like, "Oh, we're going to charge this person," and then that person kills them with a ranged attack. We're like, "Well, I was going to attack that person." I was like, "Yeah, you head to that location. There's no one to kill, right? It's simultaneous. It's crazy. It's initiative. It's why, like, I think Final Fantasy 1's bug, where when you target an enemy and you kill it, and then you still attack that empty space. I actually think that's really cool. I think it's actually really
Oh,
strategic.
was that a bug? I thought that was on purpose to force you to have to think about where you were assigning things.
No, it was.
I
not
never realized that was a bug
Yeah, it was a bug.
until now, because I don't watch like channels about the history of games and
Right.
bugs and things. I was just playing it. I always thought it was a little when I was young when I was playing it. I was like, this is annoying. I have to figure it out. But then later on, I was like, I had to think about it.
When I was going to do a Final Fantasy 1 replay, people are like, "Oh, you should definitely play the Pixel remaster." And I go, "Why?" They're like, "Oh, they fixed that annoying bug where you target a blank space." And I said, "I love that. It's so strategic." But anyways,
but it doesn't allow you to just auto attack, Derek. And if I've learned anything, there are a lot of people who want to just auto attack in their game.
True. It's true. It's not me though.
Everyone wants everything easy nowadays. That's the problem.
But also some people don't like spending a lot of time on those encounters because they secretly don't like those encounters, even though they're in the game to a high degree. And so they can't. I think a lot of the people would point out that Final Fantasy 1's bug, it does make the combats take ones that you could have won by just hitting auto attack and having it reassign when the monster is dead, that you could have won in 30 seconds, takes 2 minutes.
Right. Well, but
so it does take 4 times as long to do the fight.
But I also, having someone who's played a lot of JRPGs, and I've replayed them, and I there was a long period of time where I would, when I was flying, I would bring my my Game Boy Advance or my Game Boy DS, and I would have the Final Fantasy 1 remakes, the Final Fantasy 4 remakes, and you get to the point where you're in a fight and you literally just go bleep 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 bleep, and you don't even care what you're attacking because it's just everyone's going to just keep attacking and auto attack and just eventually kill everything, and you're literally not even making a choice, and so now it's just completely a waste of your time. So yeah. Anyways.
It comes to different philosophies about your time than those other people have who didn't like the Final Fantasy 1 thing. They wanted to spend less time overall because they thought it was a waste of their time no matter what to do those fights. And they just wanted to be shorter. Whereas you found that if you got to strategize and think more, it made the fights valuable.
Correct.
And it was therefore okay for them to be longer.
Right. But that's also the paradox. Well, not the paradox, but Final Fantasy 1 was harder because you had limited spell slots and you didn't get to rest as often, and you couldn't use a tent or a cabin inside the dungeon, and you could only have 99 basic heal potions, and that meant that even the random encounters, it was an attrition game, and so it behooved you to try to make the fight take 2 or 3 less rounds than it would otherwise do by making smart choices about where you targeted, because that way over the course of the entire dungeon you would be able to survive in a way that you wouldn't. FYI, I have racquetball in 19 minutes, so I'll be leaving shortly.
19 minutes.
Yes. Yeah, it takes me about 10 minutes.
He always leaves by 5:30 for racquetball.
I'm just
not
making
a
fun
surprise.
of him. All right.
I've been missing my racquetball because I've been too many cons, and then Vegas.
Oh yeah, Steven, weren't you going to talk about a bunch of things to Derek that you needed to tell him? You haven't said it yet. You only have 20 minutes.
20 minutes. I don't have any minutes left. I don't remember what they were. We'll talk next time. I had some fun things, but then
you said this is going to be the Derek Melenda show. I have so many things to say.
But yeah, we went right to the topic, and then it became the why D&D sucks show instead.
Not really. No, because it wasn't why it sucks, but why people were upset with it, right?
Oh, okay. Same thing.
Well, different.
All right.
You pointed out it was about the collective psychology of humanity. It was a very...
Yes, it's the collective psychology of humanity, which makes everything terrible. That I will leave you with this. It is Louis C.K. Is one of its most famous rants, and one of the funniest things he ever did, is that everything on Earth is either great or it sucks. Actually, so did Jerry Seinfeld did that one as well. They both did it, but a little differently. And Louis C.K. would be like, man, here I am on an airplane flying from New York to California in 5 hours, and my cell phone, which is going to space and back, isn't working. Everything sucks. And it comes down to, really? You're sitting here complaining about your D&D game that you're playing online with your friends that live all over the world instantaneously using amazing technology.
So you're saying that people have an infinite capacity to become entitled based upon being able to receive certain things until the familiarity breeds contempt?
Pretty much. Is that everyone is always unhappy with whatever they have, because something that if you went back 20 years ago and said, I'm going to tell you that you're going to be able to have this device in your pocket that is more powerful than every other device combined in humanity, and you will be upset because it's not loading fast enough. It's not working. It's not doing XYZ. The Wi-Fi sucks. Is that people will always be upset, period. No matter what. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. They always will. And then the Jerry Seinfeld one is that everything is always great or it sucks. And his whole funny thing is that the two are intertwined. Is that you get ice cream, and then you lick the ice cream, and the ice cream falls off the cone, falls in the ground, and what do you say? Great. Instead of crap, it sucks. So it's all the same, man. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Everything sucks. Everything's great. Just enjoy what you have. Find happiness in what you're doing, and stop looking for unhappiness. That's what I say.
The problem is that it's so easy. It's so easy for so many of us to look at the negative side of it and to find whatever the opposite of the silver lining is. And it's definitely a mindset thing. It's hard. I work hard on trying to find the silver lining and not look at the lead lining. But depending on your personality, it really changes things up. And I think maybe people who are gamblers or entrepreneurs have trained themselves to be able to look at the silver lining and to handle the negatives and the aversions better than some other people do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I just think, look, D&D, the only constant is change. I forgot who said that, but
well, not anymore. Now D&D is the same forever.
well, they're trying.
The game remains the same.
The game remains the same. That's the best quoted of all time. I love that quote. But I don't know, man. Just
while there will be room for improvement, this I can promise you. The game will remain the same. The game will remain the same.
Oh my God. You need to make that on your soundboard, by the way. You put that over there, put that one on the soundboard instead of strong. All right, well let's let Derek go, and then we'll.
I know I've been winning more games lately. It's been nice.
You aren't just losing now?
I'm not just losing.
You're
now.
not a loser.
Are you getting better, or is your opponent getting worse?
Or is your opponent just giving up?
No, neither. It's that. Well, I mean, this is a physics thing here. Okay, the amount of mass that an object has is directly related to its ability to accelerate, and accelerating is very important in a sport. And so as my mass has gone down, I am able to move and accelerate better. AKA, okay, I'm not as fat as I used to be.
And you lost weight, and it made you better at racquetball.
Correct.
Wow. Therefore, you're better because you're not as fat. That's
like my physical ability to hit the ball hasn't really changed, but my ability to stop and shift direction is directly correlated with my mass. And so
because momentum. So your force is the same, and your mass went down. So your
my acceleration has gone up
because F equals MA.
F equals MA. That's correct.
Oh my
God. Or another way to look at it is that when I am moving in a certain direction, my kinetic energy is 1/2 mv squared. So therefore the mass term. And thus, in order to reduce that kinetic energy to 0 and then reverse it, I need to proportionally apply amount of force equal to that kinetic energy.
Derek's in motion tend to stay in motion.
Yes, Derek's in motion tend to stay in motion.
Derek's at rest tend to realize they had a 6-hour stream that they were about to go to and that they should have been getting ready for.
So we are coming up with a so next week is my birthday, my 24th. And I had teased
I'm suspicious of it being your 24th birthday.
No, my birthday is on the 24th.
Okay.
But I had teased this before PAX, but I never did it. And the joke being, because I think I did like a new longest stream. It was like 8 hours. And someone said, does Derek ever think he could do a 24-hour stream? And so I'm considering doing on the 24th, my entire birthday, do a 24-hour stream from midnight to midnight. If we can keep the tip goals going or whatever, to keep it, see if we can make it the whole day. And we'll do an entire stream the entire time of my birthday from midnight to 11:59
p.m. Watch as Derek becomes increasingly unhinged.
Right. By the end of it, I'm just like, just like foaming at the mouth. Now, there would have to be some breaks, or not like maybe like, like food break and bio break. And I do have dogs and stuff like that. So, but yeah, so we might do that next.
Derek, people love dogs on YouTube. You should show them your dogs while you're doing
this right here.
dogs.
I meant more like they have to go to the bathroom and then I have to be fed and stuff like that. But anyway, so next Wednesday, this is my way of saying next Wednesday I might not be available.
If you're in a 24-hour stream.
If I'm on a 24 stream. Unless I'm like, hey, I'm going to keep my stream going. But while I'm streaming on the stream,
also Roll for Combat Live.
Well, just do that. Just do a combo.
Me being on Roll for Combat Live.
Or I'll have you guys on my stream and we could do Roll for Combat on KOLC.
I could do that.
Funny if KOLC was just only the behind the scenes of you being on Roll for Combat Live. So it didn't have me, didn't have Steven. It just had gaps in time where you were sitting and listening and nodding a little bit and then responding because it was just, what did I do during this day? Well, during this time, I was doing Roll for Combat Live.
It's a day. Now, see, that's another way to do it is where I just literally stream for 24 hours and it's just, and I'm like putting the stand and I'm like
eating, you're taking out the dog.
I'm going to be like, hold on a second. I got to go to the bathroom, close the door. I'll be right back. I'm taking a shower. You guys get to hang out in the bathroom with me.
They hear you singing Les Mis from the outside of the shower.
True story. I was just in Vegas and the bathroom in Vegas, the shower was also, had a door that closed. It was an enclosed shower, but the shower stall also had the bathtub in it. If you've ever seen hotels like that, right? Yeah. Where it's like the entryway is a shower, but then there's also a bathtub. So you had this like kind of basically a really big enclosed shower and the acoustics in there were great. And I was totally singing The Confrontation. I was just like going in on it hard. And I was like, wow, this sounds so good with these acoustics. Keith, or I would probably need at least 12 white monsters to get through that. One every 2 hours should probably do it. But we'll see. I don't know. We'll see if I'm feeling up for it. I've been traveling a lot lately, and I'm pretty worn out. So, okay, cool. Well,
enjoy the racquetball. Hopefully, you can win it.
I will. Oh, PAX Unplugged will be here before I know it. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I'm excited. I really am hoping to see folks at PAX Unplugged. I've heard it's a great show, but I've never been. This is my first PAX Unplugged. Yeah. So help me make my first PAX Unplugged a great PAX Unplugged if you're going there too. Linda and I are close by because we're in Maryland, so we're going to take the train.
Ooh, very cool. Very cool. I'm not going to Gamehole Con, but I was looking, and Gamehole Con is in Madison, and it's like kind of equidistant from Milwaukee and Chicago. And I was like looking, and I was like, flights or whatever. And then I was like, oh man, I could take the train. And like the Amtrak train to Chicago was only like $40, and it's and it's no stops. And now, granted, it takes 6 hours, which is about as long as it takes to drive it. But I was like, but that's 6 hours I don't have to drive. I could just be on a train and, working on something, doing something. And I was like, I was almost considering taking the train to Chicago to go to Gamehole Con, but I'm not going to go. So
fair enough.
All righty. Well, thanks, guys.
So until next time, everyone, if you want to battle the zoo, you have to roll for combat, even if you're never going to be happy about it because of the things Steven said, where your mind has a certain version of the fandom that is always kind of stuck in that place.
That was a long end.
Roll for combat.
Bye.